On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When the truth gets revealed, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, on the real. When I uplift the fallen humans from the ashes, the phoenix will rise and live on after it clashes. Feathers and head wraps, costume ball sashes. Atlantis and Pangea was us ruling the atlas. The mundane, some god, a numb brain. True died is reincarnate, some self-proclaimed. Taking the lessons from Quran questions. Bible as my rolling pad, holy book, circle 7. Forerunner Marcus Garvey coming in the whirlwind. Moorish Boa Muftis in the black turban. Pioneer exposed as the triple crown glows. Every negus has the negus as his throne. The temple as the body. Truth as my shotty. With no bulge, I'm still armed without the robbery. Master arts martial, and they marshal the law. Peace office abuse authority, fracture your jaw. Clapping at jaw at bachelor parties. Not knowing whether it's controlled by HAARP. Stopping the tapping of UH frequency. Sent to the higher self from Sirius B, or maybe Sirius A. The reverse is serious internet radio play. Like square shreddy, are now diamond and mute. Misleading, they charge a bill 50 for a shoe. It takes $5 to make. They load trucks with bins. Same goes for cars, construction Tims. So clean, no scuss. Revolution chumps, reclining in the armchair, speechless like mumps. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. Change is coming. I'm watching hybrids running for shade, cause Earth's hot, not like a preheat oven. Raid the stores for UV protection. If AIDS can go through the condoms, who you protecting? Neglecting the truth and lie accepting. Not in for be a person, reparations expecting. Planes going down, but you're not ejecting. Too busy flossing with the spinning rims and white feet is flexing. Fronts are fake elements, that's not real gold. Running from police with guns is not too bold, cause you got a gun but won't shoot back, son, or shoot first and earn your way off earth. Suicide is a sin and sin is ignorance. Not thinking criddle makes you ignorant. Missing the message. Ego filling your brain with nonsensical thoughts just to drive you insane. On the real, all these 30 Moors know the deal. On the real, all these 30 Moors know the deal. On the real, all these 30 Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. Our leaders labeled black, they were assigned to us. As ancients, we flew. We didn't have to ride the bus or drink at their fountain. We didn't even need our own. The gun is a penis and every man is holding a chrome. Thinking it's tough, but when you shoot, you bust. Like Vixen's holding you in with the camera clutch. Smoking a Dutch, but taught much against the master. Sell out to pay karmic debt in the life after. Don't believe me, seek the truth. I hear Hail Hitler when I play back these hip-hop loops. That rap hip-hop, Nas said it's dead. Same gun he raps about, shot J in the head. Cripple a team. These ball players, they cripple a dream. Count the asses that they slap but won't get a bad rap. And rap sheets are written by them. It's police, not following Moors, but niggas booming in their Jeeps. Europeans on the bus, they acting like niggas. Straight off the plantation, looking like J Hill figure. From the foreigner, you'll never get compensated. This armor you men saying you strapped, you've been miseducated. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When the truth gets revealed, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, on the real. Yeah, Kia Beats. Yo, Kia, what up? I used to be scared of pigs, judges and wigs, authority abusers, inside tinted cruisers. Pull out batons, get Negroes head crack on. Stuff vests with drug notes, they stole from a thug's coat. Thugs buy pitch drugs and never get caught up. Use trade tricks, these servants are made dicks. Have the front lines with dummies that know no law, to make you assume that they know no law. Smarter than a 5th grader, rights violators, oaths and badges, but acting so savage. No intellect to object or interject. Civilly dead passes, all get intersect. Foul balls get caught, legally swinging and missing deliberate. Your head they deliver it to the fucking pharaoh, dressing like your ancestors. Study, study, study Moorish holy Quran lessons. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing their stacks, sold you out to the large, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing their stacks, sold you out to the large, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. More's been telling, never to the point of yelling, like black power cowards slaving, never rebelling, backstabber, all talk, never kill a cracker. They kill their own like overseers for slave master, kill their own mentally, not a physical death, not in full life, only simply dead is left. If you went right, you look up to a conscious dyke, abandoning birthrights for a monstrous fight they're not prepared for, cause you don't study. Lack of mental exercise, get minds water sluggy, savior waiting. When Drew said save yourself and learn to love, instead stop hating. Shells filled with black books calling us Moors, no need for four-legged beasts mauling us Moors, cause status sets the stage like a costume ball banquet. Suffocate devils with a Baphomet blanket. More my vessel, not anchor but anchor. We civilized sellouts will tell you we conquered and got everything handed down like a sofa. But Europe comes from a Moorish Queen Europa. America comes from Morocco, not Vespucci. Egypt is America in Illuminati movies. Bruce Almighty, use Morgan Freeman as God to prove black can't be. So stop living a fraud. Wake up. Can't you see your own sold you out? Wake up. Can't you see your own sold you out? Wake up. Can't you see your own sold you out? That's what Moore's been telling you about. Don't be fooled by leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing their stacks, sold you out to the large, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Don't be fooled by leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing their stacks, sold you out to the large, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Yeah, Noble Drew Ali told y'all, you're not Negro, black, colored. So anybody selling you that, you know that they're selling y'all out. Anybody selling you that, you know that they're selling you out. Kia, what up?
Yeah. You know, we seek that higher knowledge. Only the ignorant can't relate. We just kill them with love instead of hate. That's what it's about.
We are Moors.
Shout out to the Grand Shape, Cujo L, Iron Shape.
We are Moors. Heard what I said? Circle 7 snapback, not just affairs. We are Moors. You heard what I said? Blue, white, green flares, not just red. We are Moors. Heard what I said? Keep fucking reckless and movies for your head. We are Moors. You heard what I said? Your slave name crest might have a Moor head. We are Moors.
20 Moors rocking, you could call them Moroccans. Race COS adepts, let's get it poppin'. Got a problem with my sheep? Got a problem with me. I be on the front line rolling 23 deep. I be studying for hours, 7 days a week. Working on my higher self, cause the devil don't sleep. Big ups to Cujo L, that's the Iron Sheik. Sevens up, facing the east, praising Allah. Astrology, cosmology, that's the real law. I slow roast ya, master the flame like Zoe Roaster. The rise of the new Moors, old heads move over. That Kundalini energy rising up like a cobra. This is training day, mount up with real soldiers. Elevate beyond the hate and claim your lost estate. The only reason you hate is you too blind to relate. The only reason you hate is you too blind to relate. We are Moors. Heard what I said? Circle 7 snapback, not just affairs. We are Moors. You heard what I said? I don't rock a hat, just a turban, no affairs. We are Moors. Heard what I said? Keep fucking reckless and muftis for your head. We are Moors. You heard what I said? Your slave named Chris might have a more head. Stop talking crazy. You can't be everything but Moors. That's like willing to stay minority and not mature. Therefore, Tosh to be gay taught the world don't respect you. However, since you want to be it, you go down when they fall. They, the ones you call government, that's really a corpse. Black man means funeral director. Should make sense, of course. Music is the food and the message, the medicine. Humble food is poison. I'm with the golden era veterans like Mark D. Condolences, QB, RIP Prodigy, who studied the history of the Moors and etymology. You missed the course of the headband, disguised as a bandana. Moorish MC, the real Moroccan, not a French Montana. Kendrick Lamar, you sound right. Trust me, he knows a language. Lupe put Moors in his video, made the point vantage. Yassine Bey knows Sabir, Bey knows Moorish Master MC. Fruquan Bey and Daddy IU are on some Moorish degrees. Sprague and Bojuno, they even killed Peter because of Macintosh. Still visit the couple planets, hip-hop astronauts. Milky Way flow, rays of tassels, blind unbelievers. To higher than other senses, to still pick up the frequency. Pick your addiction, truth will still make itself known. To go platinum now, you gotta give up more plus the soul. Watch Professor build pyramids, I watch Drink Champ steady. Cause Nori said you are on a track, so call me ready. Also, more exec produced the War Report album. Aboriginal Super Cat taught me how to hang and scalp them. Operation Lockdown, video feathers like I said to do. Initiate invasions, activate at doors every scoop. We are Moors. Heard what I said? Circle 7 snapback, not just affairs. We are Moors. You heard what I said? Blue, white, green fairs, not just red. We are Moors. Heard what I said? Keep talking reckless. And muftis for your head. We are Moors. You heard what I said? Your slave named Crest might have a more head. We are Moors. We are Moors. Heard what I said? We are Moors. Heard what I said? Heard what I said? Heard what I said? We are Moors. We are Moors.
Islam, Moors. Heard what I said? Heard what I said? What's good, Moors? Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide, wherever you are at. Welcome once again, Canaanland Moors. Hulk smash, spike bat to the head session. You already know how it goes. So the plan was, this is what I heard, right? What I heard, according to Aboriginal power, was we're gonna go on the platform, and then what's gonna happen is everybody's gonna bring up their little points. And then if the point is worthy of debating, then we'll jot the point down, and then we'll move to the next point, and then we'll compile all these points or whatever, and then we're going to have a separate thing where it's going to be, you know, debate whatever points that people want to bring up, right? Now, we already know as Moors that we don't debate people who are not our equals. We already know, just let them talk and they'll kill themselves. We already know this, right? We already learned from going on Moorish world stuff, forget these clowns. We already know from going on Sonetter stuff, try to debate Ali Muhammad, forget these clowns. We already know about people on Facebook making little videos when Cujo left Facebook, and then now we gotta take their stuff off Facebook, make videos of them, make them look like clowns, and then they disappear. So we already know what's up. We already know how it goes down. We were taught very well by the master teachers, who we consider master teachers. And one of the things that we're taught is just put the truth out there, and the truth would deal with these people. So after yesterday, actually after yesterday, while we were on the thing, every time that we would go on mute or whatever, me and Yusuf will be just laughing, thinking how dumb these people are, right? Thinking how incompetent these people are, thinking how much of a name these people are trying to make, not realizing that they're killing their self. So we said we're gonna go again today, but on our platform, so we can actually put out some information to assist those Aboriginal, Indigenous, whoever people out there that eventually are gonna bump into this, because we already know that it's gonna happen because it's been happening. And give them some information so they can start using their common sense and realizing that their own is trying to put them back in slavery, like we've been trying to tell these people, right? We've been trying to tell these people, oh, and there's Brother Mizak right there, there's one, right? Aboriginal in the building, here to learn something. Why? Because there's something wrong when people want to always debate Moors. And then every time they get on to debate Moors, they keep asking the same questions over and over and over and over again. And like, they didn't get it from the last 5 times that we said what we said. So we're here today to once again put out some more information, wake up those who want it, because again, you know, we do us and let others do them. We don't really care whether people wake up or not, because we got our birthright as Moors. We give a hell what people talk about. We don't care if they think Muhammad is the last prophet. You're allowed to think that. We have our own prophet over here. We don't need no Muhammad. We give him honors, but we don't need him. We don't need Quran of Mecca or whatever, because we already got our own prophet that brought us our own Quran. Moorish Quran. We don't need anybody's identification, because we already got our own. We don't need anybody's headwear, because we already got our own. We don't need anybody's prayer. We already got our own. We don't need anybody's God. We already got our own. This is where the Moors are at. And we know that people are waking up, because Noble Juali told us that new Moors are going to come into this with their eyes wide open. So we already know. Noble Juali already told us that leave the doors open. You're going to need 16 secretaries to write down the names of all these people that are going to be waking up. So we already know what's up. All we're about is putting out information so that people could learn. People who want to learn could learn. People who don't want to learn, they're going to keep playing games. Eventually, they're going to go to the wayside, and they would be non-existent anymore. And then you have situations like Merk L, who he got his ass beat by the Moors because he was talking BS about the mothers, and they held him in the elevator and they beat his ass for talking crazy to the mothers in the mothers class. He got mad, he jumped ship. 2 years, 3 years now, all of a sudden he's back talking about RV Bay publications and, you know, RV Bay gets you arrested and all that business. 3 years. We saw him walking down some street in Harlem or whatever, eating yellow watermelon with a tank top on, no fez or nothing like that. So he took the fez off, went back to the state of mind that the prophet found him in, and now he's coming with MAGA hat talking BS about Moors again. Like he didn't learn from the last elevator situation that he knows what happened in the elevator. And again, people talk crazy. Not all Moors are going to be like Kudro and cuss you out on YouTube. Some Moors are going to come check you. So watch what you say to Moors, because a lot of these Moors don't really play around like that. A lot of these Moors get yielded because GS said, don't worry, Moor, just yield. Don't worry. Just let them talk. Just let them say whatever. Let them do whatever. Don't worry about them. You just keep doing the work that you're doing. Don't get yourself in any issues with these people who are probably going to snitch if you do something to them. We know how it goes. We're not spring chickens. We weren't born yesterday. We were the ones that were with Noble Drew Ali in Noble Drew Ali's time. And we're back here again, repping still for the prophet, for the Moorish movement, for our nationality and our birthrights. So we're going to put out some information again today, as usual, just to set the record straight that the so-called Aboriginal and Indigenous and autochthonous and whatever they want to call themselves, but not call themselves Moors, those people are Civilitter Mortuus, dead in the eyes of the law. And that those people are without God. That's why they're called Los Indios. If they say that they're Indian, they're Los Indios. Don't tell me about India, and don't tell me about your ancestors call yourself that. India comes from Los Indios, period. Documented fact. Anybody who studies could go find that out. It's not that serious. But they keep on playing their little games. All right, fine, play your games. This is what we're going to be doing. Islam, Moors.
Islam.
So we got Moors on the line. You already know. Just put your appellation on the record, and you know, let's get going.
Brother Yusuf Mukadiel, calling in from Northwestern Mexico. This is Happy Raja, Islam, y'all. I mean, I'm coming from domicile in the Shaken Mexican territory of near Pennsylvania, and ready to deal with this.
Islam,
it has been too much craziness.
Yeah, well, you know, since you're new to the platform, Moor, give us a little background, how you came into the Moorish movement, and you know, what were your thoughts based on, you know, not just yesterday, but you know, in general, because we also have Aboriginal on here, Mizak, who disagrees about something, but you know, eventually we'll, yeah.
Definitely got that.
Yeah, but before you Hulk smash them, just give us a background how you came into Moorish movement and whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I guess about 4 years ago, I was along with everybody else in that new turn of awakening. So like, you know, I was in the Kemet, I was on the Bobby Hemmett wave. I always felt something funny with Frank Gehry. But you know, I was moved towards the polite and all that type of stuff. But once I think it was an interview where Tariq Bey came through and he was talking to Reggie, and they proved out there that Reggie's last name was Moorish. I never heard anything like that before, so I like looked it up myself. And when I looked it up myself, it sparked something. I was like, wait, this is a little bit realer. I've never seen anybody pull up something in their actual shore name or whatever goes back to something that they saying is real. I looked at Kemet as just, you know, us making it real in our mind, but you know, there's nothing really in that. But once I found there's more science, and you know, I fell asleep on Tariq Bey's interviews. I was watching you guys. I found you guys Back to Basics, and Asir. And when I got to the mothers on RBB Publications, when I was dealing with the Back to Basics, for every new Moor, any new Indian that's trying to figure out more, any black person trying to figure out more, anybody that's trying to figure more, come to Cujo's page and listen to all the Back to Basics. Listen to that whole playlist. Don't skip one, because you need that for the first, you breaking out of yourself and becoming into a new stance and becoming noble. You got to understand that you aren't who you thought you were. So like, all that stuff, it has to get beat out of you basically with like a Back to Basics, and then go to like a RV-based publication. You need that reading. You need to learn how to read and how to take the information in, because I don't think people are taking in the information to even to let it sink in. And I had a couple legal things going on at that time, but when I was listening to Cujo, he was saying, if you're learning about this, don't try to do anything, because you're just going to get yourself hurt. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just had to let a couple things go, but then I went back and got them corrected later, because I was studying, so that's just, oh yeah. And, I was raised, my grandparent, my great-great-grandma is from a Lutheran. She's an Arawak. And my grandparents on my father's side is Georgia. They are go all the way back to Cherokee. My great-great-grandma on his side told me she was, we on our way, baby. We on our way. She always said that. But she said, we Cherokee, baby. We on our way. After I heard Tariq Bey say, oh, we're not Cherokee, it's Anianwea. I'm like, oh, that's what she was trying to say to me. Every time she would say it, I'd be like, oh, Grandma, where are we on our way to? And she would just laugh. But now I know, like, oh, she was trying to say Kevin to Anianwea. So, other than that, my grandma on my mother's side is still alive, because I heard an Indian say, oh, my grandma don't know nothing about Moors. I asked my grandma, who was 92, I said, Grandma, was we Moors ever? And she said, baby, Moors, we was Moors. We was Moors, and we did the Jews thing, and then we was Panthers, they had it, and then we was Malcolm X in it, and we was all that stuff. But she, she of course she still go to church, but she remembered a time when we was Moors out here. So that was all I needed.
Islam. So and then the other thing too. So we had a plan for the more to debunk a lot of stuff from last night, and then they were messing up with the YouTube earlier and the Google and all that stuff, and he was trying to log in, and then when he tried to log in, and then it's going to send me a message to say, somebody's illegal, try to log in, is this really you? And I'll click yes or whatever. So then that's supposed to give him the okay, but then they'll send something back, okay, well, what number are you seeing right now, and all this stuff, trying to make this stuff hard for the more just to go live. So before we go into today, was there any stuff that you wanted to address from last night, or any previous streams by these jokers?
Because we already know, how colored this can get, and how just disingenuous the whole thing is. I really feel like we're amongst a bunch of agents, and they haven't been found out. These are the same people that was probably sitting in the background in other days. I mean, come on. But anyway, what I noticed with this one is that after Asir went in and he torched them with that case law that they never talk about, basically where the guy was going as a Moor, but he was claiming indigenous Aborigine, and he wasn't claiming a national origin. So it was thrown out, like it was looked at as frivolous. There was no backing. So that's the main thing that I noticed with this thing. These guys put up a character looking like he had a fez on, and he's like doing all this sword battling, and I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, so we're not Moors, but they got a Moor sword fighting on the creek.
Right.
And then you can play a clip of the 45-minute one. In the beginning, they started off like on color, and it's just Shemitars. Like Shemitars up as soon as they come in. I can't remember exactly like how they where they started at, but wherever you play it, we could deal with it.
Brother Yusuf, you got anything to add in right now?
Say that again?
You have anything to add in right now with regard to last night? Cause they didn't really let you talk either. You were trying to beat them up too.
Oh, right. Just the fact that like you said from the beginning, it was always kind of fishy, because the whole thing was set up at least 2 weeks. You know what I mean? That the whole dialogue was supposed to go on with the Aboriginal guy. And then when it does go, it was never supposed to be how it was. Like, especially I was shocked. Like, when they started questioning, like, we started getting questions, like, okay, number 2, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like the Grand Chief said, when he contacted me, he said they're trying to get some information from their side and our side. They're going to try to put a book together. So when he let me know that in the morning, all morning, afternoon, I'm trying to get information together, thinking, okay, we're going to put some information out for a book. And then, like I said, next thing I know, okay, number 2, the question for the Moors is, I'm like, how did it get to this? We're supposed to be, and then I even said it on the platform. Like, I thought we were supposed to be doing something for some books, putting some books together, and nobody said nothing. And then the Grand Sheik even said it. Oh, seems like cricket.
Wouldn't that be like an inquisition if they're asking all these questions to Moors instead of building? Ain't that like an inquisition?
Hold on, I think Moore just got dropped. Hold on 1 sec.
Oh my God, they always do it. Oh, I did think of one. Now that he jogged my memory a little bit. I don't like how they made it seem like it was like basically only a Thompsonist one could discuss the Moorish paradigm when he doesn't consider himself an open Moor. But you consider yourself, you are the Moor, Grand Sheik and all that.
Right.
Real, any plaque they need, any fact they need, any book
hold
they
on,
need,
Moore, hold on 1
it,
sec.
you got it.
1 sec, Moore, 1 sec. 1 sec. Is it even still retrograde right now?
Sorry, Moore.
Yeah, peace, Moore.
Yeah, I got it.
So you're good on this one?
Yeah, I'm good on this one. It just dropped on this one.
All right. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, brother Kasir.
Yeah, basically, Yusuf, you jog my memory. It was I didn't like how a Thompsonist one is like, he's backing the Moors. And then they kind of like isolated Cujo's whole argument to hear what a Thompsonist one had to say, but he doesn't consider himself a Moor. But he brought up the fact that I stood as an Indian and a Moor. But his only reason of why he doesn't want to stand as a Moor indefinitely is that they gave him a little bit of trouble. It was a little bit of they didn't like when he did that. I mean, do you understand what Inquisition is? It's not going to. You're returning back as like somebody saying that this whole government, this whole thing is wrong. This whole de facto or municipal corporation disguising itself as a government through de facto means it's like you're saying it's wrong. And then if anybody sees that from behind you or anybody around sees that, then they're going to stop. And that will be the end of what we know as the United States. So, India will keep the United States around because they already got deals with them.
And then another aspect of that I was thinking about is that, of course, they're not going to let the Moor go through. They're going to let the sellout go through.
Exactly.
Of course, they're going to stop the Moor and put the spike strip in the street, and they're going to do everything to make you not do it as a Moor. But you say that you're Indian, which is under their jurisdiction, which is Los Indios, which again, Los Indios is ones without God. We know that God is not some being. God is the word. And these people run from words like no other people, these indigenous people. So they really are Los Indios. They really are ones without the word, because they don't deal with word at all. All they do is opinion. They don't deal with word whatsoever. All they do is speak opinion, no facts. Right? And we know this
and
because
every time you try to read something, they're going to talk over you.
Right.
Every time you try to bring some knowledge, some book or something, they downplay books. They shun books. You always want to come out of something for some books. And I'm like, yo, listen to these people. You sound ridiculous. Like, how can you shun the book?
Oh, no, go ahead, Moore.
Say that again, Moore.
No, I'm saying sometimes you need the book to verify what you're saying. Especially if you're saying like, you know, such and such is a corporation. Let me show you when it was incorporated. I don't want to see this work. I don't want to see. But this is what it shows you. This can't never be a thing. Yep.
They only want to use the books when it's beneficial for them. They don't want to use nothing else. Once a Moor wants to prove the fact to the contrary with the evidence and the reference points, they don't want to see it. The only time they want to use reference points is when they try to prove their fact. They don't want to use it when some Moors want to pull out and read the definition. Like it was like pulling teeth for the Grand Sheik to read one definition. He read one definition yesterday, and it was like a tsunami came through. Nobody wanted that definition out. Nobody didn't want it. And then they try to play
crazy stuff like what does Moor mean? Yeah. What does name mean? Well, what does faith mean? Well, what does man mean? It's like, wait, what? So if we're gonna act like we don't know what any words mean when we look up definitions, then that's the end of the conversation. Like that's still up.
But again, and with regard to books again, case in point, right? And then after that, we're gonna play this thing. Case in point, you're talking about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and talking about the treaty is what made Moors be Moors and all this BS. That's why we go to books, right? This is the treaty book. This is the treaty book. You can get it on rvbaypublications.com. The point that was being made, was that the Treaty of Amity and Commerce was between the United States of America and His Majesty, the Emperor of Morocco. Now, if the treaty's done with the Emperor of Morocco, I don't give a shit what his name is. The fact that he's an emperor and emperors rule empires, if he's an emperor of Morocco, then there's only one empire that he can be emperor of, if he's emperor of Morocco. And the second point is, if these people are so indigenous or whatever, how come the United States didn't do a treaty with them to get the 13 colonies? How come they went to Morocco? Why is it that no Indian chief, no Cherokee, Chippewa, Lenape, Delaware, whatever tribe that they want to call themselves, whatever Indian tribe, indigenous tribe, autochthonous tribe that they want to call themselves, why is it that United States went all the way to Morocco to do a treaty to get 13 colonies on Turtle Island, but not talk to anybody who's a Turtle Islander? Obviously, this is not Turtle Island. Obviously, this is not the Americas. Obviously, Morocco has supreme jurisdiction on this side, or these Europeans wouldn't have done any treaty with the emperor. And then how is it that the emperor has jurisdiction over here if Morocco is supposed to be over there?
Right. That's the question. Yeah, they don't go over, they don't want to even talk about that. As soon as you bring that up, they want to know, well, what does more mean? I'm like, yo, brother, you just asked that question a million times, told you the answer. You don't want to address the fact what the Grand Sheik just said about who, and to add on to what you just said, why didn't the Indians or indigenous people here recognize the United States? Why didn't they recognize the United States? Why wasn't Obama up there saying the indigenous people, Indian tribal people were the first people to recognize the United States? Why didn't he say that? That should be what it is.
Right. Why wasn't Hillary Clinton up there saying the Aboriginal and indigenous people of the Americas is the first people to recognize us, the United States of America? How come you didn't say that? How come? If you guys are so-called the indigenous Aboriginals or whatever, and you've been here for all these millions of years, and civilization started over here with the American Indians and all that BS, then why is it that these Europeans didn't come to you people to get the 13 colonies? And why is it that after they got the 13 colonies, when they started doing treaties with the Indians is when this place went to shit? How come everything was good when they were on the 13 colonies? There were no issues. As soon as these Indians brought these Europeans onto the mainland, now the place has gone to shit, and then the Indians are complaining that Moors sold somebody out. The hell out of here. How we sell people out when this is Morocco? The people who sold out are the ones who don't want to call over here Morocco. Those are the ones who sold out. The people who sold out are the ones who want to call themselves Indians and tribes and clans and call continents islands and all that stuff, but they don't want to recognize that they're Moors. Those are the ones that sold out. Point blank, period. And again, their favorite Aboriginal, indigenous, whoever, told them that he went to court as a Moor and an Indian. And he said out of his mouth that, yeah, I'm a Moor. So if he's a Moor and he's Aboriginal and indigenous, then what the hell is wrong with these other people? What type of PCP are they smoking that they can't get this?
Right. Why they admit that this is Egypt over here? And like you said, well, if this is Egypt, y'all know North Africa, exactly. They killed themselves. This is Egypt. And I'm like, okay, well, this is Morocco over here.
And remember the one guy was saying, like, oh, y'all not Moors originally, y'all Moors. And we like, okay. What you just said was
whatever way you
so that's over here. So that's cool. We good.
You good.
That's like, what's the problem?
And said they were a nation. And called them a nation of a people. He said this. This is them talking. Called them a nation of a people and everything.
Nation. What? We talking treaty. Is it not the Moroccan Peace and Friendship Treaty? Is that not derived out of older treaties that Morocco had with Great Britain?
Yeah, there you go.
So now watch this.
Because it was the United States that passed that.
Right. We being nice to them because if we go all the way back and talk about these little relationships that Muli Ahmad al-Mazar had with the Queen Elizabeth I, that goes all the way back to the early 1500s.
Right.
And that was, what is it called? I'm in Brother Abdullah book right now, page 97, just perusing. And I just stumbled upon this, like Britain and the Islamic world, 1558 to 1713. This is a book by Gerald McLean. So this whole thing, he's going through the relationship that Moulay had going all the way back with Queen Elizabeth. And it doesn't even start there. Like I said, this is page 97. So, I mean, they can play this game as long as they want. I mean, but they're never. What they're going to do is keep finding Moors, and it's going to cause like a bigger problem than it is now in their mental. They're going to drive themselves crazy.
Hopefully, they drag themselves crazy and kill themselves.
Yep. And we gonna get that. I got that in the book right here, man.
Jump off.
Where some of these people calling themselves Indians, they was scared of the Inquisition coming to the Americas, so they was killing themselves, hanging themselves, because they didn't want to deal with the fight, the war. But Moors always fought back. So, I'm trying to figure out why are they trying to hide like they're not the ones who like partnered up with the Europeans,
exactly,
the Anglo-Indian alliances. Exactly. And to chase down the Moors trying to free these black people thinking they had to be slaves in the Stono Rebellion.
Right. No. Somebody just asked the question again. Are Moors African? Are Moors African or are Moors American? He said it's a real question. Are Moors African or are Moors American? Right. Moors are.
I would say you can't.
Moors are African. Moors are Arab. Moors are Asian. Moors are American. Moors are anywhere that there's dark-skinned people. Those are Moors. Is there dark-skinned people on the moon? Oh, yeah, those are Moors. Mars? Those are Moors. Some other galaxy out there? Yeah, those are Moors too. Anywhere that there's dark-skinned people, those are Moors. So are Moors African or American? No. Moors are African and American and Asian and Australian and Greenlandian and everywhere else that there's dark-skinned people. The whole planet. But you can't say that because we blanket term everybody. How come they don't say melanin's a blanket term?
Right.
How come they don't say melanin's a blanket term? How come we bring up melanin? Nobody says, well, that's a blanket term. You can't say everybody has melanin. Why not? Because it's a fact. That's just what it is. Whether they have a high percentage of it or low percentage of it, everything in existence has some form of melanin in it. That's just what it is. Don't get mad. Don't get defensive because, oh, well, we don't want Europeans to be Aboriginal and Indigenous. So there's Europeans doing more stuff than Aboriginal and Indigenous people to help the Aboriginal and Indigenous people. That's why Anur Majid said we are all Moors. Some of us are full-blooded Moors.
Yes.
Some of us are partial Moors. Some of us are amalgamated Moors. Some of us are under the one-drop rule Moors. One drop of nigger blood makes you a Moor. One drop. You have a hint of kink in your hair, you're a Moor.
They echo that what is that? An axiom in the samurai thing.
Yep.
They say one drop of Moorish blood makes the true samurai. But
exactly.
That, samurai means some of the Moor.
Yep. Samurai. Not Sam Indigii. Samurai. Post what link? Let me address this thing again for the umpteenth time. There's no link for this. There's no link. So stop asking for links. There's no link. This is our live stream on YouTube. We're not StreamYarding and we're not Google Hangouting like you niggers so you can screen share and not show yourself. The Moors are on the phone. There's no link. And you people aren't getting my number. You people not getting my number either to be calling my phone down, bothering me with your dumb BS. You sit there.
We just brought up the samurai.
You sit there and just listen. Go ahead, Moore.
We brought up the samurais, and I want to take the Moors to a little story of that I found earlier today. Of I know y'all watched the movie Karate Kid, right?
Right.
You know the whole thing of Daniel's son and Mr. Miyagi. I found where they got two characters from. So Daniel's son is a samurai. His name Hasekura Kasanaga.
Well, just mute your online if you're watching. So we're getting feedback. Go ahead with that more.
No, I had my headphones on.
All right.
But it's Hasekura Rakuiman Kasanaga. So I'll spell that for y'all. You can find this on the New World Encyclopedia.org, by the way. Hasekura, and his last one is TSUNEGA. Naga. So
put that out one more time, man. Put that out one more time.
It's Hase. So Hasekura. That's his first name. Hasekura. I mean, his last name is Tsunenaga. Tatanaga. So why, like, see, we just brought up the samurai, and why this guy is important that I want to bring to your attention, because he was a Japanese samurai and a retainer who worked for this guy named a daimyo named Dave Masamun.
Yeah, we're getting feedback again. You're echoing again.
Let me take it off of the job. It's still echoing now?
No, you're good.
No, we're not. Cool. I had to take off the headphone. All right, that's easy. All right, cool. So we got this Japanese samurai who was a retainer, or he did business for a daimyo named Date Masamun. So let's go into the Asiatic mind frame of what a daimyo is. I'll crack y'all up real quick because it's right in line with what you think it would be when it comes to Moorish. They say a daimyo were powerful feudal rulers. They say feudal, but from the 10th century to the 19th century in Japan. So you already know it was a long time where Japan had shut itself off from the rest of the world. But with this guy, he was the ruling families are referred to as a daimyo, meaning great, day, large. So day meant great or large, just like how it is when we got it as the title. And mio means name or name land, private land. Now we know land means more. So literally, daimyo means the day more, or the Moorish day. You know how a day in Tripoli would be the ruler, or the day of Algiers would be the ruler. They got the same type of thing when it comes to Japan anciently. So we got the daimyo, and him employing this guy, Hasekura Tatanaga. So why it was important is because he had a whole expedition around the whole globe, basically. It's like little known of him because of what he did, afterwards. If you're on that site, the New World Encyclopedia, you can see that he has a coat of arms, and it looks like the swastika. So anyway, what he did, he traveled around. He went from Japan, and he was like one of the first Japanese people that they would say came to America, and that they have on record. But the crazy part of why he brought it up is that when he left, he converted to Christianity. So this is what happened to him when he came back, and this is why I like to call it, the tale of James, son of Miyagi. So 2 days after receiving Hasekura's report of his mission, Date Masamun issued an edict prohibiting Christianity in his territory. So no Christianity there. And then Hasekura's descendants were eventually executed for being Christian, and his voyage was forgotten until 1873. So when you become Christian, you get killed and forgot about.
That's harsh.
Yep. That was the whole world, and they don't have no records of it because that's how crazy it gets when you switch on your family. Because that's what really converting to Christianity is. You're switching on the mother's bloodline. Back to that bloodline thing.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, so let's just press play on this thing. And you said the 40-minute one, right?
Yeah, that's 43 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the real story.
Chief Holiday, Show, Hustles, Ty Data, Ab TV. So we're gonna give y'all some smoke. Anybody wants to smoke, y'all know where it's at. Anybody want to say something, and we can continue to build, y'all.
Turtle, I need you. They can't hear me, but
shout out to Turtle Island Easy for being first in the building as well. Peace. Welcome back. Oh yeah, but what Zoe was saying, talking about the Inquisition, it makes perfect sense now to me when I study through history, right? If we know everybody was melanated at some point in time, right? And then let's just say these people we know as known as Moors who traveled the seas, went to other parts of the earth and began to populate. It would make sense that, okay, if they did conquer other people, that they would take them and utilize them as servants back to where they left. You understand what I'm saying? So but it still bothers me the fact that because Moors are still in collusion with those who were enslaving or conquering our people in some form of fashion, no matter how you look at it. Because even if they left here, then went over there, started some new shit, and then came back over here to conquer, either way, the term Moor or those known as Moors has a bad taste and disdain in history. Does anybody disagree with that?
Yep, I disagree with that.
I do.
Strongly disagree with that. Go ahead, Mar.
I do. So we got that.
Oh yeah, just make sure you talk in your mic so you're clear and loud so nobody can say they can't hear what you're saying.
So I got the book Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins. You already know you already know about this. But since I'm traveling, I got this, and I just basically highlighted a lot of points because I know where they try to go with this whole Moorish thing. So let's prove and show them slowly but surely the Moors were indeed over in America. Let's show this how this works. So while William, and this is on page 3, called The Return of the Gods. Now remember that, the return of the quote-unquote gods, right? While William Prescott and others have told the story of the conquest of Mexico in detail, vivid enough to dazzle, the more sinister story, or the burial, destruction, and vilification of the lore enshrined in these pyramids has largely gone untold. Intertwined, the stories reveal a struggle between two powerful forces vying for the souls of men. Native historians describe the arrival of the conquistadors as the succession of grim fatalities, so they brought nothing but death. Though all omens and had foretold their coming, so they already had, prophets telling them about this is going to happen, and an impeding destruction of the Aztec Empire. So there was an empire over here, but they act like there wasn't no empires over here.
Mm-hmm.
Aztec Empire, which is the Moorish Empire, and we're going to show that. The actual landing of the Spaniards was so astounding to the first eyewitness that despite the loss of all his toes, he climbed 7,000 feet, to Mexico's highland capital, Teotihuacan, to inform King Montezuma II that the towers and small mountains were floating in the sea. That was their boat system, bearing strange beings from an unknown world with very light skin, long beards, and hair only to the ears. So when we're saying Moors are dark skinned, that's why. Because the ones that came over here later, they had very light skin, long beards, and hair only to the ears. Moors had very dark skin. So as we keep going, Montezuma was a slender, aristocratic man with a very aristocratic man with a long square face, and was aware from the sacred text of the Mastika that Quetzalcoatl, so-called Joshua, right? Jeremiah always was talking about, right? Quetzalcoatl, man or God, had promised to return from the east in the year 1 reed, and this was the year 1 reed. So the point of that is, I thought that he said that Joshua kicked out somebody. But in this thing, it's saying that Quetzalcoatl or Joshua had went to the east and then prophesied his return 1 reed, the year 1 reed, and then Christian calendar would be 1519. Ain't that when when Cortez came? Mr. Hernan Cortez came April of 1519. So if they're saying that they were prophesizing a return of Quetzalcoatl, and then the year that Quetzalcoatl was to arrive, Hernan Cortez arrived, they think the savior is the Quetzalcoatl guy. I mean, they think the savior of Quetzalcoatl returned as Hernan Cortez. They came in killing Moors, destroying their land. Jesus will come like a thief in the night. It's the same exact story. So if you got a Caramel reading from the Bible and like taking that as his book, as his holy manuscript, then you're reinforcing the same thing that got the Americans invaded, Christianity.
Yep.
Believing in some return of something. So I'm gonna get to this part too. It says, shocked by the news that Montezuma facilitated between defiance and surrender, Cortez and his followers were described to him as advancing in battle array and dust rising like whirlwinds, their spears glittering in the sun, their pennants fluttering like bats, their armor rattling in the cold November wind. So, what was that? November was actually the date of when. So, the 8th wind is 8th of November. So, it's funny how they use that. But so it basically skips down to where it says, Montezuma's envoys knelt before the Spaniards and adored them as the sons of the sun. That's a law. They're gods, see? And had not the divine Quetzalcoatl dressed in black velvet as Cortez did? So they thought Cortez was goddamn Quetzalcoatl. That's why they was like, so they took him in and admired him, but really, he was coming to take down their land.
Yep.
Let's explain how Montezuma, the second look. Montezuma looked like he was 40, in his 40s when Cortez had looked 50. And he was described by the Spaniards as having good height, well proportioned, slender, square, with brown complexion, hair that was just covering his ears. So he has brown complexion, but the people that was coming in looked like Cortez, and that was light. But they thought that was their Quetzalcoatl.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? That's not Quetzalcoatl, guys. That was Cortez. And Quetzalcoatl left to the east. So that's the ones that was getting kicked out. So all that kicked out talk, the Moors kicked out Moors, and then Moors came back to Moors. Nothing else. It's no other confusion.
Islam.
So yeah, I'm a yield for now because I got more, but we're gonna let them talk themselves into it.
Islam more. And we'll just make one stop right here. When Rocks Cry Out, Horace Butler.
My favorite book.
Since these guys don't like to read books.
Nobody never references Horace Butler either. They never like to talk about him.
Yep. The Mali Transatlantic voyages became critically important when I remembered that Montezuma had said the Aztecs were foreigners who arrived recently aboard ships that had come from the direction where the sun rises. From Mexico, West Africa's Mali was in the same direction as the rising sun. Spanish writers who saw the Aztecs and who knew the Moors had revealed that the Aztecs even wore the same clothing used by the Africans called Moors. There was one thing that bothered me about the Abu Bakari story being the history of the Moorish Aztecs. So if these Aztecs were from over here, but they were known as foreigners, how is it that they were dressed like Moors? And if they were dressed like Moors, wouldn't that mean that they knew something about Moors? They have to know something about Moors if they're gonna dress like Moors. Nobody's gonna dress like a Moor, but not know anything about Moors or not tie themselves to Moors. It really doesn't make sense. Zero. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. Whatsoever. It's official. Early scholars described America's indigenous people as Moorish. The origin of America's native populations has long been a subject of debate. The theory that the indigenous natives of America were a result of Asians crossing the Bering Strait is no more substantial than the idea that America was populated by Moors having traveled across the Atlantic and settling in Americas. Actually, the latter theory was the opinion of most scholars before the abolition of slavery. Others believe that America is an old melting pot and its indigenous inhabitants is a result of several migrations from both Africa and Asia. Published 1864, The Indian Races of North and South America by Charles de Wolfe Brownell. According to Brownell, whose writings were published decades before the inception of the Moorish Temple of America and the birth of Noble Drew Ali, it was an opinion of early scholars that the Moors were the first to populate the Americas, and such comparisons were largely due to a near affinity in character and complexion between the two races. Amazingly, early scholars agree that the Carib native tribes must certainly have originated from Africa. Among Archduke Ferdinand's 1596 inventory, the Kunstkammer chamber were many relics of authority, and it has long baffled some historians as to why all the Mexican items were called Moorish. Published in 1888, Albert Samuel Gatschet, in a book entitled The Karankawa Indians, the Coast People of Texas, the term Moorish, as here applied, can scarcely be regarded as a deceptive one, in much as Montezuma, the king of Temitzin, Mexico, who is subsequently designated as a Moorish king in this same inventory. It is interesting to note that gradual changes that occur in the wording of the subsequent periodical official registrations of this Moorish hat. In 1613, its description was faithfully reproduced. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish. With this single alteration, the text was again transcribed in 1730. The Journal of American Folklore, volumes 8 to 9, page 112 states, Mexican life is one of Moorish origin. Why would Mexican life be one of Moorish origin? Why?
It is.
Why? Just because Mexicans are bored?
Right.
Go ahead, Moore.
When you read the document, well, when you put the information out yesterday, first thing they want to know, who wrote that, where did it come from, and all of that, which I don't have a problem with. We answered the questions. But my thing is, where's y'all anything? We say it tons of times, that's your opinion, that's their opinion, that's your opinion. I've asked the question numerous times, show me where that comes from, whatever they're saying. Like, they never do. But when the Grand Chief just read what he read, they got all the questions in the world. But they never bring any information, no reference point, no nothing. Only word they know how to look up is more. And then they read it and stop there. Like, North Africa wasn't over here connected at one time and all of that stuff. Like, we're not in North Africa. They just stopped and did the research. They just stopped right there. Purposely, though. Because they know, just like when I had brung up and said everybody had learned from Taj, and then nobody said nothing, but then they mentioned Hakeem Bey. They mentioned another Moor. Right. And I'm like, see? Right. like nobody's saying nothing. Everybody on this whole line, everybody, I think it was like 6 of us, 8 people on that line. Nobody said nothing because that's where everybody learned from, the Moors. And then now they're going around, we're Indians or indigenous. And I'm like, none of those words are even around then. Indian wasn't around. Indigenous wasn't around. None of those words wasn't around. Indian is an English word. It's Los Indios. We have a reference point for that. We give the reference point, they act like that doesn't matter. Like that's what really like frustrates me. Like, we give the reference point and illiterate and competent people with nothing say, oh, that's not what it is. Like, brother, you're dumb. What do you mean? You're not even qualified to say that that's not what it is. You're not even qualified. So how could you? Because when you say, oh, that doesn't matter or anything, that's just your opinion. You can get upset and feel all you want. That's just your opinion. It's the fact. It's a fact already. When they said that they found Montezuma's Moorish hat in the vault, it was classified in 1500 as a Moorish hat. They wrote that in the 1500s. It was in the vault. Like, you got to debate the guy who classified the hat as a Moorish hat in the 15th century. That's what you would have to debate. But moron guy on here now, they make it seem as if because they challenge it, it doesn't mean that, oh, it's been debunked. Brother, it was in the vault in the 15th century, labeled as the Moorish hat. How is that debunked? Like, you can't, like, that's what really frustrates me. Like, they're just saying stuff of an opinion. No reference points. Nothing to back, nothing they saying. And just, oh, Candyland and stuff like that. And all of this. That's all they know how to do. All they know how to do is do name calling and all. That's it. No facts. How many times did I say yesterday, deal with scholarship? I thought we were dealing with scholarship.
Let's deal with scholarship. Stop the opinion. Let's deal with scholarship.
They continuously do. Yep.
Like as agents with an agenda, the point is to make anything Moors is saying make it seem like, oh, it's too hard to get, it's frivolous, it doesn't stick, it doesn't make sense. We're going too far back into the day but they literally sound like people who work for the corporation that are also unaware that this thing has been like sold out plenty of times. It's just a pure ignorance, but their ignorance is not like they don't know. Like, I've heard Karami or whatever his name is going and like make points where he's calling this Morocco and all this stuff and saying that he understands it as Morocco. But then he'll go back later and, you know, whatever source of payment or funding these guys, he'll reverse it back to an argument that goes right back to a Bible or something, or like some religious book. Even religion, stay away from the civic. That's been like the thing for the past, like, I don't know how long.
All right, and then another point they were asking about, well, are Negritos Moors last night, right? Again, let's go to scholarship, right? J.A. Rogers. Moor, the race as it occurs in European heraldry, always means Negro. Moor's head, says Berry, is the heraldic term for the head of a black or Negro man. Abbott says Moor's head, the head of a Negro. Edmonston says similarly, and this definition is etymologically correct. The Greeks, as was said, used moros to mean black or dark, and the Romans used it for Negroes. Woolly hair like a Moor's, says Marshall. To Claudian, Moors, Ethiopians, and Negritians were one and the same. He speaks of the Moors who dwell beside the waters of Gur, most famous of the rivers of Ethiopia that overflows its banks, as if it had been another Nile. Sir William Smith says the Moors were known in the Alexandrian dialects, and that Moors must not be considered a different race from the Numidians. And we already know that we are not Negro, black, or colored. So if we're not Negro, black, colored, and they're saying more for everything, and more means black, and more means Negro, and more describes a Negro and all that stuff, and Negro and black are fictions, everybody knows that those are fictions. Nobody wants to claim those. We know for a fact that when the word Negro came around, people didn't want to call that. They punch you in the face, you call them Negro. When the word black came around, people didn't want to call that. They punched you in the face for calling them black. So clearly our people weren't those things. Why would they fight you for calling them Negro or black? And then how is it that those things just became adopted as the norm for our people when at one time they would fight you if you called them those things?
No. The reason I would agree with that 100% is because now, not only that, they had, wanted to get permission from another group of people outside of themselves to come back to a land that they visited or, lived in or even, journeyed to. Now, Moors call themselves Moors, but they forget about the names before Moor, if that was them. You see what I'm saying? Because the Moors can take on a title as being the Moor, but are you the Moor? Can you trace yourself back by document or any doc hits to being a Moor? Because everywhere Moors went, they had dockets, they had documents, and they had contracts.
Go ahead, Moor. Yeah.
He just lied. I don't care how hard he says doc. I don't care how hard he says that. You're lying. I said it before. DNA, so-called DNA, blood line, and all of that, lineage and stuff, like, that's classifications for eugenics. That's what it was. That's all it is. You can look up the definition of blood, right? It'll give you the history of when the DNA or this experimentations with blood didn't start happening until the 19th century. That the word blood itself just means like it means to gush or something else. Bloodline is not even a word. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's why we keep saying nationality. And it's actually consanguine. It's sanguine, and it deals with the essence and all of that. It's just that they keep using France Block Lunaire, Fresno Blumenblock to try to figure out who you are. That's why I keep, like, the Moroccan Empire is the world. Moors went everywhere and made sure that the blood was everywhere, that we were going to put all of it, and everywhere. But the thing was, like, we let modern Europeans come in. Like, once we created that, now we're confusing. Now there's different bloodlines and all that. No, it was only one people on the earth. It was just us. What are you talking about? Different. And even in our Circle 7, it says one mother has given us a suck or whatnot. It's just one mom. Mm-hmm. And everybody else is saying. I don't comprehend that what they're saying. Like, that's Eurocentric thinking. As soon as they be like, oh, we're not all the same and all. That's modern Europeans made that up in the 19th century. And then when they did it, it was for classifications for eugenics. It had nothing to do with, oh, that's them over there, that's them over there. Because when they do that, They put you in political, imaginary lines. None of those places that they're saying that you're from exist. Colonizers said change all the names everywhere. How are you going to say, oh, you got to check if you haven't done the correct background paperwork? And brother, what are you talking about? Europeans control everywhere. Every place you're saying you're going, whatever, Europeans have changed their name. They're going to say you got Israeli blood in you. When that's Palestine. We know that. And Israeli is not even a blood. They just start lying. Native American is not a blood. But it was like, what are you talking about? Like, none of those places are bloodline. African, I don't care what they say. All of those places, Europeans have made them up. They're not their original title. Those boundaries where, oh, okay, this is Connecticut, this is Massachusetts. Europeans made that up. That's not real. That's not real. Birds don't see that. All of a sudden, birds have free will to go everywhere. They don't look at fake boundary lines and be like, oh, you got to have paperwork to prove to me that you a bird. Like, they sound ignorant doing that. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You look like bird. You know what I mean? Like, prove to me. Or were they the right bird? What? What did you say? Yeah, there was Moors then, but were they the Moors from back then? Like, brother, what are you talking about? And then, again, that's him saying that. No documented fact, no reference point, no nothing.
Yep.
He just made that up and said that.
Yep. Opinion.
That's the problem. He said that.
And then again, that's the whole thing with this this YouTube, just push record, go live, whatever. Right? That they're not speaking from a factual place. They're speaking to people who are not studiers, people who just want to go on something, push something, and think that they're gonna get, the tablet of truth from one YouTube video, right? People who have nothing to do, that they're gonna look at some 8-hour thing, just sitting there looking, not taking any notes or anything. You're just sitting there watching, and you're not taking any notes. You're not checking any reference points. You're just watching. You just go to the movies and sit there just for entertainment. Once you're playing entertainment with information, you're playing yourself. Because the whole point of information being presented is for you to learn something. If you're not learning from the information being presented, then, and when we say learn something, we mean real learning. We're not talking about you hearing something you never heard before and call that learning. That we're not talking about that. We're talking about you going out, doing your research based on the notes that you've taken from the presenter. You doing your own research. And then coming back saying, oh, wow, I learned something. Because remember, education means to take out, not to put in. So if you think that you're getting something is being educated, playing yourself. Supremely playing yourself. And you are.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And you're going to pay for it.
Because
Good, man.
Didn't they just say, like, they figure out who recognizes this? Like, oh, nobody recognizes it. What are they talking about? Nobody recognizes this. Well,
you gotta ask Hillary Clinton.
Oh yeah, she came to my territory and did that. Like, but they can go on rbbases.com, rbbaypublications.com, and go to the section where it says proclamations by state. Go down.
Here you go.
And just go to the first one right there. And this is Atlanta, Georgia saying this. Atlanta, Georgia Corporation saying this. It's not Morris. We didn't say any of this. This is what they're saying.
Oh, but that's the European saying that though, so that doesn't count.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
That's the European saying that, so that doesn't count. But you let some European come here talk about oh yeah, we're gonna dismiss your case, Indian. They're listening to that though.
Yeah,
don't call yourself Moor. We're not gonna dismiss your case if you call yourself Moor. But you call yourself Indian, or we'll dismiss this stuff tomorrow.
Oh, but watch this, Cujo. They forgot why the European is acting like that. They forgot the whole reason why. But it's right here, page 17, same book, the pyramid. It says, designed for the detention and punishment of heretics, that would be Moors at the time. The Inquisition was used as a giant court barrel for the enrichment of the crown, church, and inquisitors, while cheerfully eliminating dangerous radicals, those who have been taught medicine, geography, rhetoric, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and astronomy by Moorish philosophers in universities such as Cordova, whose libraries had since been destroyed. The Inquisition was also an excuse to rid the planet of such organized mystics as Illuminati, that we know as Alumbrados. So the Moors galvanized the women who were studying the mystics in Alhambra. That was called that became Illuminati. The pantheists, and those are just people that still kept the knowledge of there's one God with many different attributes to the point where you can't just say one. It's everything. Mainly seven. But the Manichaeans, if you look up Manichaeans, M-A-N-I, Mani, C-H-E-A-N-S, Manichaeans, you're going to see a picture of a couple Asiatics with long braids with feathers on. In Albigensian. And those are the things, those are Khazars. Those were like mystic, what you would call Catholic, but before they were Catholic and rolled out, these people studying the mystics. Like I guess you could relate them to Gnostics. So all that happened to stop the Moorish teaching of that. That was the old school. That was the old teachings and the mystery Babylonian systems that they were, because the Europeans like to call them so much. But these are really Atlantean mystery systems. This is what we taught of how to transverse the world, how to look around in the stars, which is really in the sea, as above so below, and how to transverse and build according to the star chart. Because that's kind of, you follow those charts when you get out of here. But that's a whole other story. So I want to bring this part to a head too, since we're speaking about this is all going down in so-called New Spain, which would be present-day Florida, right? So they're saying victims' goods subject to confiscation were incorporated into the royal and church domain. So they incorporated the people's goods into the church domain. That's feudalism, but in the dirtiest hands possible. The inquisitors who paid no taxes and gave no account of confiscation affected. So they didn't, just like today, they're not reporting to the treasury when they're taxing our people to death, when they're mortgaging our people to death with interest behind it. You pay for the house 12 times, right? They're not reporting that back to the treasury. So that it's like the same thing they were doing back then. Took their share, and deterrent to possible opposition in New Spain, 34 Negroes, 34, 3 plus 4 is 7, including 4 women, add the 4 to the 7 is 11, were hanged and decapitated in Mexico City. That's 7-11. And the whole reason why this went down is because they were trying to stop the teaching of the Moorish philosophy in present day America. They were trying to stop the Moors from relearning because they had already got them to be Indians already.
Mm-hmm. More, because I want to add on to that book you're talking about, the ancient Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins. I got that book because Master Teacher Bobby Hemmett said And for you Moors, you should get the book Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter H. Tompkins. That's the only reason why I got it, because Bobby Hemmett gave a reference for the Moors to get that book. That's the only reason why I got that book. And that's, again, their guy, all their teachers, Bobby Hemmett. You know, everybody's listening, coming in when they wake up, they listening to Bobby Hemmett. He's the one. Another reference to Moorish. Like, and we all know who Bobby Hemmett's teacher was. C. Freeman L., master teacher. Like, that's from my side. Like, because as soon as you mentioned that book, I was like, dang, another Moor got that book. That book is, like, amazing. Like, because it just talks about Moors all through the book. Yeah. It literally talks about Moors in there. Like, it talks about the black Moors in there. And that's the same book that says Canaan is a Mayan word. That's just, it's in that book. Canaan is a Mayan word. It's in that same book. That whole book breaks down everything, because Cain is a snake. Back to the serpent. It's the serpent people. In symbology, serpent means wisdom. The people of wisdom. That's the Canaanites. That's what it meant in Mayan. Right in that same book. That book right there goes in on Moors. When it talks about another San Francisco friar that came over here, and when he got here, he saw black Moors gambling, black Moors being goldsmiths, silversmiths. He was like, yeah, they were doing everything. Black Moors. That's all he was talking about. Doing everything they wanted.
Crazy, dog. Crazy. But I'm to act like this didn't happen. Like what I'm really sick of is like, why do we keep saying that this is called America? Like, I know why we do it as far as call ourselves Moorish American. That you can use that as a stance when you're dealing with international position and then like letting it know who you are tied to. So would you at least set that whole thing up for it? But for us to sit as Moors together, like them ignorant Moors, and we're saying America, that's not even what we should be saying. Like, this land is to be called. Like, as far as like from our perspective, I remember the kings of the Amaru king from Inca being family to the Mongolian king called the Khan from Mongolia. So you got somebody like Kublai Khan, his son Genghis Khan, or his grandson Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's great grandson is none other than Mango Kapak of the Inca Empire. So if they family like that, you know, just why are people letting not getting the Khans come from Mongolia and then the Amaru come from here, and it's basically like the families that left out the civilized Asia from basically California connection. They just met back up and did the whole thing again. It was always a go out and come back after we civilized, because we start from here to go out, civilize, and come back.
And just with regard to people's comments, we just want to put out this Title 29, State Government General Provisions, Chapter 1, Section 106, about the Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware recognition. The Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware. The Lenape Indian Tribe. Just like they say Noble Drew Ali's Cherokee, but when you go through all his literature, he never called anybody Cherokee. All right. Section 3. The tribe can date their ancestral ties as far back as the early 1700s. The tribe was formerly known as Moors, and for many decades of the 20th century, state documents such as driver's license designated the tribe's race with an M. The Delaware School Code of 1921 provided that the State Board of Education could establish a school for the children of people called Moors. The Smithsonian Institute issued an annual report in 1948 in which the tribe was referred to as the Moors of Kent County. The tribe has a constitutional tribal government, and the preamble of its constitution states that its purpose is to, 1, preserve the legacy of its ancestors. Who are their ancestors? Moors. The name that the tribe was formerly known as before they became the fiction called Indians, or Lene Lenape Indian tribe, or whatever else these people want to call themselves.
Cujo, that's funny. That tie right into resolution number 75, because how it says those former Moors. When you read resolution 75, it says that they were recognizing these former Moors and giving them the use of their names that they missed so much, like the El Ali and Bay. But that whole former Moor thing, I'm looking at that as that's the us reawakening from the whole going back into the tribe game from that 31 Delaware 31 code. Oh yeah, that a speedy and thorough Americanization of these former Moors. That is the accordance, because the last time they known themselves as Moors was, when Noble Ali came back. Before that, it was that time then when with the Delaware code, when they started wanting to be tribe of Lenape. And they took the M off the driver's license. And then they put a C on there. You ever notice that? Like everybody right now, if you look at the class of they so-called, if you have a driver's instrument, you shouldn't as a more. But if you do have one, if you look at it, it's going to say class. The class is C, but you're not commercial. Why? Why does it say C class if you're not driving a commercial vehicle, or are you? Is a vehicle just only commercial? That's like when you study, the only thing a vehicle could be is a commercial is a commercial apparatus. It can't be anything for an allodial or sovereign. You shouldn't even be a driver if you're a sovereign or claiming to be more. You shouldn't be a driver, because that's an actual position of employment for the U.S. corporation. Drivers have driver vehicles or business vehicles. You're employed for a good job, right? So you say you work for Enron before Enron went wrong. They'll give you a company vehicle, and you get the certain tax from the company and everything. But that's not yours; it's the company. That's exactly how it works when you think you're going to get an automobile and then use it for transportation. You need to look up what transportation means in the Code of Federal Regulations. It means human trafficking. So how do they have a Department of Transportation? The very act of transportation is human trafficking, the thing that they wrote the Mann Act for, because Moors was running around here with daughters, and they was booking them for slavery. You need to look that up. People like Jack Johnson and what's his name, Chuck Berry, they got arrested kidnapped back in the day, and it was slavery charges because they had young women with them. Familiar?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they would have been good if they ever listened to what Noble Ali did. You don't want to amalgamate with anybody from a different nation. Not anything about racism or nothing like that. You just want to cure your family and bloodline. One more bite. Mm-hmm.
They had certificates. So you couldn't enter a harbor without having paperwork on that vessel.
I just want to add one thing too. Now, this will also lead me to believe that this term "Moor" is identified. I mean, it's similar, or is, what's the word I'm using for? It's synonymous with maritime admiralty law as well, because you look up "Moor," it says a vessel, and we know what a vessel is. We know how they use the man, the woman, and the child, and put them in maritime law, or take their culture and history. So I just wanted to point out that when you talk about Moor, it is synonymous with Admiralty law, which is the law that is being used to usurp the culture, the land, and history of our people.
Right. For people that's listening, it's like considered a maritime law of today. And colors law from
Go ahead, Mark.
Maritime law don't mean that. He just lied. To steal from your people? No. That's dumb diversus. Roman Pontifex. That the Grand Sheik and then and the other Moor was going over it yesterday. They told y'all where those documents came from. Because like he said, it leads him to believe.
Believe.
So this is not a fact. Exactly. It leads him to believe. So there's nothing you're saying matters. That's what we keep saying. That's what we keep saying. That whole line meant nothing because it's an opinion. It's your belief all over again. Now that's why it didn't make any sense. That's why you lied and everything, because you're dealing with belief. You're not studying. And then you think maritime law means to steal from your people, brother. I don't know if you really believe that or you just lied. Like I hope, like I don't know. Either way, it's bad. Like that's just horrible. Like how could you believe that maritime law means to steal from your people?
Now let's go again. He did say belief. That's what Noble Drew Ali teaches right. The Moors. Since we have a prophet, they don't have a prophet. Let's hear what our prophet has to say with regard to believing. Chapter 7. Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is truth. So as soon as he said he believed, he's already letting us know that he perhaps knows something. Now, it's not a fact that he knows, because you can't come and talk that BS about maritime being whatever he said, right? You can't talk that craziness about maritime being what he said. And then we have Rick Smith right here letting us know what maritime is. Now, you guys already heard what he said. Now, this is what maritime is described as by this European right here. The Moors were the master mariners of the sea. Henceforth, the term maritime law. It's in the word itself. Moor equals M-A-R. Maritime law. Master mariner. Mar, as in the name Maria, means of the sea. The mariner of the sea is the master of the world. That's why maritime is related to Moors. That's why admiralty law is related to Moors, because the admiral, leave out the T part, the admirals, the people who were, just like we learned with Christopher Columbus, because he was a not too navigational of the sea guy. He needed Moors on the ship with him. Not black guys, not Africans, not Senegalese, he needed Moors on the ship with him. Why? Because Moors were the master mariners. Where did he get these Moors from? They got those Moors from the Spanish dungeons. Because the Moors did not start or were not part of the Spanish Inquisition. Moors were the victims of the Spanish Inquisition. This is why it was so easy for them to find out about the Americas. Because after the Moors fell in 1492, After they fell in 1492, these people put Moors through all types of torture tactics in order to find out everything that the Moors knew with regard to what the hell is on the other side of that big blue thing that they call ocean. What is over there? They obviously knew that something was over there for them to travel all that great distance to come over here. And again, they came over here. 1492. 300 years. 1700s. These people get a treaty to have 13 colonies that kept them by the seaboard. But they came over here since 1492. What were they doing over here, and who were they meeting up with? Certain people will tell you that, oh yeah, the Indians were peace-loving people, and they came and they murdered the Indians, and they came and they did all this stuff to the Indians. Well, there's also Indians who knew, hey, hold on a second. Who are these people? Where they come from? They don't look like us. Why are they here? And wanted to keep them on the seaboard. But of course, they had their little sellouts who brought them into the tribes, which is how they were able to pull off their Mataoka and take the Moorish princesses, because they didn't want no queens. They took the Moorish princesses because sellouts brought them in to the tribe.
Yep.
And when the sellouts brought them into the tribe, and these people saw these beautiful sisters with their breasts out and their ass out and all that stuff, being their natural self, because of some sellouts, is why these people got this the syphilis blankets and all that stuff. It wasn't because of Moors. It was because of the tribal people, who again, just like the brother explained in the earlier thing, they thought that that was the coming of Quetzalcoatl again. Because Quetzalcoatl in all of those so-called Mayan, Aztec, whatever stuff was depicted as white. And when they saw that European, they thought that that was their ancient ancestor coming back again, so they let him in. You're a dumbass. If you don't know that white on Quetzalcoatl means his status. Same thing that white means today, status. White doesn't mean pigmentation. How dumb are you? That you don't know, they said Quetzalcoatl is gonna come on a boat or whatever. Some Europeans come on a boat and you just let them in your stuff. And no different than the Negroes, who it's 5,000 Negroes on one slave master, and they're pretending like they can't all rush this guy and grab the whip and beat this guy's ass. You're sitting there watching your brother get whipped and all that stuff. You're sitting there watching women get raped or whatever. And remember, when you do your history of even the so-called slavery going on in America, it was the Muslim slaves that were revolting. Those are the only ones. The slaves that were Muslim, those were the ones who were saying, forget this. You're not enslaving me. We're going to burn all this stuff down. It was the Muslim slaves who were taking over ships. And you already know that as soon as we say Moors, they're going to start talking about, oh, I don't want to be Muslim. Oh, so you guys know that you guys know, if you see Muslim in history, that they're talking about Moors then. They're not talking about some pale people that you see today. Because as soon as we bring up Moors to people, they're going to say, oh, I don't want to be Muslim. All right, so if we say Muslims and we say mosque, we're in America, what the hell do you think they're talking about? Some Indians? They're talking about some Aboriginals? Please. Islam more.
Yeah, y'all can do your research on the Stono Rebellion. When the Moors popped that off, and it was Moors, like when you get the book Stono, I can't remember who the writer of the book is, but it's a book called Stono. where they break down the whole thing that was going down in the Stono Rebellion. Basically, it was Moors running around in South Carolina in gangs, like murking everything, like going to plantations and like on some Django stuff. Like y'all want to see something, and they go shoot the master because they would go raid the arms first thing. And the only reason they would not succeed at times is because you had slaves running to the master, letting them know, yo, they plotting, it's the Moors out there, they plotting to free us and stuff. Like we like don't let that happen, man. So we like these people wanted to be slaves. Like that's a thing that where it's hard to get to, but they wanted to be slaves. Like they wanted. It was almost like having a job now where they give you all the benefits and they give you the 401k, and that's what it was like then. But we were saying like, no, you got to go home and take care of your farm. You have a farm that you haven't been home to because you're following around Europeans. Like that actually happened in my family, but you know it's another story. But basically, this whole thing it was even back in what was it called? You go on SmithsonianMag.com. Smithsonian SmithsonianMag.com. SmithsonianMag.com. It'll and you go to Muslims were banned from the Americas as early as the 16th century. So you already know Muslims anymore, but they have a whole article when Muslims were banned from the America, when Moors were banned from the Americas early 16th century. It says, on Christmas Day, 1522, 20 enslaved Muslim Africans used machetes to attack their Christian masters on the island of Hispaniola, then governed by the son of Christopher Columbus. The assailants contended to the grinding toil of the Caribbean sugar plantation, killed several Spanish, and freed a dozen enslaved Native Americans. In what is known as the first recorded slave revolt in the New World. So, the first slave revolt was Moors walling out and freeing Native Americans, so-called Native Americans.
Read that again, Moore. Read that again.
On Christmas Day, 1522, 20 enslaved Muslim Africans, you already know that means Moors, used machetes to attack their Christian masters on the island of Hispaniola, then governed by the son of Christopher Columbus. The assailants, condemned to a grinding toil of a sugarcane plantation, killed several Spanish and freed a dozen enslaved Native Americans in what was known as first recorded slave revolt in the New World. The uprising was so quickly suppressed, and this is the color part. The uprising was so quickly suppressed, but it prompted the new crown Charles V of Spain, a Christian Moor, to exclude from the Americas slaves suspected of Islamic leaning. He blamed the revolt on their radical ideology rather than the harsh realities of living in the life of slavery. So that whole thing of like us being like understanding who we are as Moors, we're not going to let certain things happen to us. Like once your mind is free, you can't become a slave. So no Moors in their right mind would let a European slave them. I don't even see that in my life. I can't even see that in my imagination at this point. But like, you know, for these stories, just to go into the color, when I read through it, what I see is that it was more just like how we are now. It wasn't wicked, and we was riding out. And then the people that, you know, want to acquiesce the way they are doing today, it's like just like today, a few of us trying to free all of these slaves, just slave minds. But this is exactly it. It feels like I'm reading the story of us when I'm reading this.
Because it's the same sellouts that's through history back return today. The story's still going on.
Now
they're still selling out now.
By the time of the Hispaniola revolt, Spanish authorities had already forbidden travel by any infidel, whether Muslim, Jewish, or Protestant, to its New World colonies, which at the time included the land of what is now United States. So they even right there show you the United States ain't really part of. It's not really America. Like they miss the whole point. Like the United States is the corporation. America is the land. There's no geographical landmass that you can find anywhere called the United States. So like you being from there, that can never happen. You have to be a naturalized. You have to be naturalized for that to happen. You can't be born in a corporation, but you can be naturalized to one.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you have to let go of your nationality.
Yep.
So if you want to be a United States citizen, that means you let go of your nationality. Legal stones, like you gotta claim your birthright back, like back to the fig tree, divine, and then it's divine before it's national. So it's like that's another thing that keeps getting missed. It's like we can't even get to the metaphysics because people are having a problem with words. But we all know that Moab doesn't mean it's not physical. It's metaphysical. It's like the carnal material world. Like it's not anything that we need to be caught up in as like an actual place you can go to, even though we know Moab is in Utah. Still metaphysical.
All day, every day. All day, every day.
And another thing before I yield, if Canaan, right, is America, and the Canaanites are called Canaanites, and Canaan his name is Canaan. Why is that land named after him if it's for somebody else?
Right.
If we want to play Bible, I yell that.
Oh, the European did that. Don't forget, the European did that.
European did it.
Broken promises on display at Native American Treaties exhibit. For centuries, treaties have defined the relationship between many Native American nations and the U.S. More than 370 ratified treaties have helped the U.S. expand its territory and led to many broken promises made to American Indians. More than 370 treaties made with U.S. and Indians expanded U.S. territory. You tell me those people aren't the sellouts? The Treaty of Peace and Friendship kept these people in their 13 colonies. 370 plus treaties by the native Indians with the United States expanded their land into so-called Indian territory. A rare exhibit of such treaties at the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. looks back at this history. It currently features one of the first compacts between the U.S. and Native nations, the Treaty of Canandaigua. Also known as the Pickering Treaty, the agreement was signed in 1794 between the federal government and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, or the Six Nations, based in New York. The deal secured an ally for the young U.S. government after the Revolutionary War and returned more than 1 million acres to them. But their territory has been cut down over the years. More than 2 centuries later, the U.S. has kept one promise. Article 6 says that they would provide goods in the amount of $4,500, which shall be expended yearly forever, explains Museum Director Kevin Gover, a citizen of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. Every year, those goods from the U.S. government include bolts of cloth to distribute to tribal citizens, Haudenosaunee leaders have said that the cloth is more important than money because it's a way to remind the US of the treaty terms. The physical treaty, like all things, will eventually fade, but that doesn't mean the commitments that were entered into are completed or are undone. At least 7 other original paper treaties will be featured in rotation at the museum before the exhibit Nation to Nation. For now, the documents not on display are kept at the National Archives, where one almost forgotten treaty is stored underground. The light blue pages of Treaty K are signed without ratifying seals or ribbons, like 17 other unratified treaties signed by representatives of the US government and Native American nations during the gold rush. How come during the gold rush, where again, the gold comes from the land, which is supposed to be Aboriginal indigenous land or whatever, they got treaties during the gold rush that have no ribbons and are ratified and no seals or whatever? So that would mean that they just gave them jurisdiction with no rules, regulations. They just made them go do whatever they want to do. And then how did these Europeans, if they're not indigenous to over here, know that there was gold in this land? Had to be some Indian sellout to tell them. The answer is always gold. And if it's not gold, it's silver. And if it's not silver, it's copper. And if it's not, go right through the metal chart. Hardro says many American Indians suffered without treaty protection. But whose fault is that? Your dumbass should have did treaty of peace and friendship that Morocco signed with United States to establish them. Why would you go make a new treaty with these people when there is already a treaty in place to keep these people at bay? Why? Why is it? You have this thing locked down, but then you're going to go do a treaty with them. And now you're complaining. Present status of Indian treaties. Today, the subject of Indian treaties is a closed account in the constitutional law ledger. Today, the subject of Indian treaties is a closed account in the constitutional law ledger. Why are the treaties with the Indians a closed account in the constitutional law ledger? Why? Why is it? How is it? You know what closed account means? Every single treaty that you guys did is a closed account. Well, no wonder these people are violating the Constitution and violating everything else. It's no wonder. By a rider inserted in the Indian Appropriation Act of March 3rd, 1871, it was provided that hereafter, no Indian nation or tribe within the territory of the United States shall be acknowledged or recognized as independent nation, tribe, or power with whom the United States may contract by treaty. I thought you guys had some authority over here. I thought the Aboriginal and Indigenous people, it didn't matter whether we were Bureau of Indian Affairs or not, because we're doing our own thing. Hold on a second. Hereafter, no Indian nation, this is from 1871, no Indian nation or tribe within the territory of the United States shall be acknowledged or recognized as an independent nation, independent tribe, or have independent power with whom the United States may contract by treaty, provided further that nothing herein contained shall be construed to invalidate or impair the obligation of any treaty heretofore lawfully made and ratified with any such Indian nation or tribe. Subsequently, the power of Congress to withdraw or modify tribal rights previously granted by treaty has been invariably upheld. Statutes modifying rights of members in tribal lands, granting a right or way of a railroad through land ceded by treaty to an Indian tribe, or extending the application of revenue laws respecting liquor and tobacco over Indian territories, despite an earlier treaty exemption, have been sustained. When, on the other hand, definite property rights have been conferred upon individual Native Americans, whether by treaty or under an act of Congress, they are protected by the Constitution to the same extent, in the same way as the private rights of other residents or citizens of the United States. Residents and citizens of the United States are corpses, are Civilitter Mortuus, and all those so-called rights, once they're granted to you by a corporation, are really privileges, and they're plainly. Plainly. Hence, the court held that certain Indian allottees, under an agreement accorded to which, in part, consideration of their relinquishment of all their claim to tribal property, they were to receive a severalty allotments of land that were to be non-taxable for a specified period, acquired vested rights of exemption from state taxation that were protected by the Fifth Amendment against abrogation by Congress. A regular staple of each term's docket of the court is one or two cases calling for an interpretation of the rights of Native Americans under some treaty arrangement vis-a-vis the federal government or statutes. Thus, though no treaties have been negotiated for decades, and none presumably ever will again, litigation concerning old treaties seemingly will go on. And litigation will go on forever, because these people are in there stateless, talking about they have some rights and they have some claims. Now again, we have to ask the question, just like, how come these so-called Indians, these so-called Aboriginal and Indigenous peoples, weren't the ones that made the Treaty of Peace and Friendship that founded the United States? Why was it with Morocco? The same reason why we ask, why is it that the dish, the famous dish of Cuba, which they're indigenous people, why is the famous dish called Moros and Cristianos? Why isn't it called Los Indios and Cristianos? Why is
or a Cuban dish?
Why is the Cuban dish called Moros? Why aren't the dark beans of the Cuban dish called Los Indios if Indians were the first people over here? We reached a very large island called Sumatra, where pepper grows in considerable quantities. The chief is a Moor, but speaking a different language, Santo Stefano. News from New England, 1676, reprinted at Boston and Albany. The usage outlasted Shakespeare by at least 2 generations. In a brief narrative of the encounters between the early colonists of New England and the native quote-unquote Indians, I find it stated that these unfortunate gentlemen were intercepted by 700 Moors, with whom they fought for the space 4 hours, till not only they too, but Captain Sharp and 51 Christians more lay dead upon the place. And again, that at Woodstock, 10 miles from Sencock, on the 16th of May, was a little skirmish between the Moors and the Christians, whereas there was the later 3 slain, 2 wounded, and only 2 Indians killed. But you're not Moors though. Santo Stefano. Huh?
I don't know which one they are. Like, what are they? They don't know.
What are they?
Yeah, like, you just know that they're not Moors. That's
Good
what
question.
they know.
Yep. What are they?
What are they? What tribe are y'all claiming? If you want to be tribal, like what tribe y'all claiming? I heard the one. Yeah. What did he say? Man, we don't deal with no tribes. No, we ain't no Indians. We don't deal with no tribes. We just savage ass Indians. We not Indians, but we are. And it's like they're confused in their own right. Yeah. I heard they were like arguing over like the dude Todd Daddy. He gets on my nerves. So he's on there. He's like, yeah, man, like we are Indian. And the boy was like, I'm not Indian. And the guy was like, no, you're not. I am.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. We got one more. We got one more jumping in. Hold on. Islam more. Let me merge you in.
What you said?
Islam more. We're here. What's good? Islam more. Just put your appellation on the record so people know what's going on.
Islam more. This is Roy Sheldon Theodore Mackenzie Celestine L. or Sheldon Mackenzie L.
Islam more.
Islam to all the Moors online. Who's there online?
Oh, we got Brother Yusuf and Brother Kasir online, aka Brother Conway.
They're in trouble now. Trouble now.
Nah, like it's crazy. It was crazy. Like I watched the video that you put up when you were there debating the other brothers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like it seems as though they were making it. Some of them are making it more complicated than it is. Like, and like I always say, it's important, number one, to travel, but then to talk to people from other nationalities.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one thing that people can actually check. When we say North America is Morocco, Morocco is just the English translation of Maghreb. Maghreb is Arabic. In English, it's Morocco. So when you talk to anybody from Morocco or anybody who knows like the history, like anybody you can say is so-called Arab or any Arabic speaker, they will know North America, the Americas, as Maghreb al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa is farthest west. Maghreb is Morocco, farthest west. It's not complicated. Number two, and this you can check, fact check it. Number two, I lost my train of thought. This is seen also like, you know, you have Casablanca in Morocco and the White House. Casablanca is translation is where.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same. So that's that's the same thing. So it's not complicated. Now, when you look at treaties that our ancestors wrote, they saw the world as Moors and Christians. So this goes to what you've always been saying, Cujo, Grand Sheik, and everybody else, that all dark-skinned people are Moors. Because at that time, Christendom was Europe, and the rest of the world were Moors. This is like when you read the treaties and so on and so forth. Now, and this is why, like, when I watched the video, I typed a comment saying, like, I wish I was on that discussion, that panel discussion, because it's not that crazy. They talked about language. Treaties were written in a specific language that all the head, if you want to say, quote unquote, Indian chiefs and all that spoke. It was all one language. And so this is all in the Time Walker, written by a so-called Native Indian, American Indian. He's a Sioux, S-O-U-I-X. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
And he spelled it all out. The treaties were written in a specific language. And after El Segal sold everybody out, and the Europeans now were able to come to the Americas, and the Vatican was a third party to the treaties that they set up, they were able to kill off all the heads of these tribes, so-called tribes, because they knew the original language of these treaties. And so that's why they killed off a whole bunch of so-called Native Indians or whatever, Indian Americans or whatever, because they knew the treaties, and then so their offspring and so on, their grandchildren and stuff didn't know the treaties. But then those treaties still stood, and they didn't know that, so they made new treaties which were notwithstanding. So when you say everybody is Moors, I comprehend that. I'm sure everybody on the chat comprehends that, but they don't. It's not, it's not complicated at all. It's quite simple, actually. So it's somewhat frustrating. And then they're like, well, when they're talking about bloodline, I know what they were getting at. They were getting, like, when you're saying one bloodline, like, I comprehend it, but what they were thinking is just like blood type. There's a difference between bloodline and blood type.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's different blood types, like O negative, AB, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's blood type.
Yeah.
And bloodline is different. And it was just somewhat frustrating listening to the conversation and everything like that. It's just a bit crazy, but it's not that difficult, man. The way I look at it, it's not that difficult.
That's why these people have to be agents, because it's not that difficult. And again, you want to put this out there too. I don't know why Autochthonous One is riding with these clowns when he knows as much as he knows. And these people are obviously against Moors. But then when he says stuff about Moors, they don't got nothing to say. They don't got no debate. So why even play that game with them? Like, why play that game with them?
It's like the agenda to like give over the authority of what to speak on when it comes to the Moorish agenda and the Moorish paradigm to somebody who's not a Moor, which is always like the wrong way to go, because you already know, like, why ask a cat why ask the dog what a cat's gonna do? It's like, that's not the right. We want to
It doesn't make sense. It's like ask a Moor if you want to know Moorish history.
Right.
So I ask black guys. Like, or don't ask an Indian if you want to know what about Moorish history, because you already know it's like it can get confusing, especially with the way they're teaching it.
Right, that's the one that's straddling the fence. The one that's playing Moor/Indian. That's a straddler. You don't want somebody that's straddling the fence. Like, I don't want to do this because they're gonna harass me more. That's the novel roots. When he was beating them to just become a regular Toby, but he was like, nah. But his boys was like, yo, it'd just be easier.
Just be Toby.
It's just easier.
Just be Toby. You're making us look bad. Just be Toby.
And that's what he did. He was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be Toby. Like, and he's telling us in class, it's easier to be Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went in there as a Moor before, but it was easier to be Toby. Like, that's what I was hearing.
That's what I heard too.
And then when I was telling the Moor also earlier when he did that, right? When those colonizers went in the back and he played that Indian role and they went in the back, he said they went in the back for however long, they knew what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
That incident yesterday with him coming on there, saying on the platform his story, what he did, that's exactly what they wanted. Because he caused confusion with that. Yeah. Now Morris or whoever is thinking, well, I can just be an Indian and do whatever. That's exactly what they want you to do. Because that's what they made them fake treaties with those deals, Indian people, and took all their stuff away.
Yep.
Because now you under a classification that doesn't go to a people. So now we're gonna get you all of y'all. Yeah, sign them all up. And then when they all on there, yep, just come back and just take everything. Just take everything. That's what they did. And it was just a setup for him to come back and cause confusion in the group. Like, oh, they letting us get away with being Indian. And then when everybody went in there Indian, they still was in jurisdiction because we read Indian country. It means restrictions.
Oh, and they didn't want to buy that. As soon as we read that, they went nuts. Like, why are you guys going nuts? It's just a definition. Like, what you want to look up more and you want to look up stuff, and then as soon as you look up Indian country, now you don't want to go with that, but you're gonna go with more definitions and whatever else. Go ahead,
just to add on, like when one of the speakers was saying, was talking about, I think an empress or something was a Muuru or something like that, which is M-U-U-R,
right.
And he's saying that that's not Morris. It's like, really?
Yeah, that's Muuru.
You make it that distinction, so so basically, if you go back and you look at language, the older language had no vowels.
Right.
And you're now gonna say M-U-U-R is different than M-O-O-R.
And then M-O-O-R and M-U-U-R is different than M-R.
Exactly. And it's different than M-O-U-R-I, and it's different than like the Maori in you know what I mean? At New Zealand, it's different there, and it's different all over, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, and that to me is separation. When I hear all those different, and then the Moro at the so-called Philippines, and then the Maroons in Jamaica, like, you're hearing all this tying, which is tying up the world, which is pretty much the way I see it is the way when you read those old treaties, it was Moors and Christians, and then you're gonna break it up and say, no, that's not what the deal is. And then you're talking about, we gotta unify, and like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. Right? So
they know exactly what they're doing.
And like one of the brothers, and this is why, like, another reason why I was hoping to be on the show, like, one of the brothers was saying the double-headed eagle was the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And the double-headed eagle was the Holy Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
There was a difference. There's a Holy Roman Empire and there was an empire. The Holy Roman Empire was on the side of the Moors. And they were, if you want to say, the quote unquote Masons that the Moors taught, if you want to say, not saying that they were like full on European, because back then pretty much they were mixed or whatever. But they were an extension of the Moorish Empire, and they went to South America and dealt with the Mayan, which were the Aztecs, and they secured, like, okay, you guys are with us, okay, cool, now you get extra protection. They're the ones that signed, they're the ones that hooked that up. That's also in the Time Walker. And on the relief that I was talking about months ago, where they show the relief of the Aztec, part of the Aztec Empire, and it's surrounded by flags. It's surrounded by the double eagle flags. So they were protected. They were part of the empire, and they were protected. And this is what a native Indian is saying. I'm not saying it.
Exactly.
So why?
That was the same thing with the Los Indios book. There's a native Indian saying that Los Indios is Indian.
Right. So if you want to look at it politically, then you could say, okay, well, with those treaties, politically, the treaties that the Sioux and the Choctaw or whatever had with the Moorish Empire, politically they were Moors, but then they were still Sioux and Choctaw and whatever. You could look at it that way. But at the end of the day, they were Moors still. Based on them agreeing to be part of the empire, if you want to say, like, you want to do it that way, they agreed and they got riches and so on and so forth off of being part of the empire. This is in the Time Walker, written by a native Indian. Like, come on, you know what I mean? And then there's other books. There's other books on the Americas and North America being, they came before Columbus and all that stuff. They talk about how when the Moors, when our ancestors came to the Americas with Columbus and stuff like that, and they had to communicate. It was Arabic, Hebrew, and Chaldean. So
great. That's the bond of Moors.
Right. So they were communicating with the so-called native Indians, and they were speaking one of those three languages or all of them. That's in, they came before Columbus. That's in, I think they talk about that, if I remember correctly, also in Ancient and Modern Britons. They talk about the Americas and stuff like that. America BC. Matter of fact, America BC by Barry Fell. They talk about how Egypt is on the side. Like the brother was talking about the civilization started here and then moved east. I mean, that's correct. Like Egypt was here first, and so on and so forth. So I think these brothers just make it more complicated than it really is when they start talking about, Islam as a religion and so on and so forth. It's just like, it's not that complicated, bro.
Yeah. And really, again, the whole
not that complicated.
The whole thing with the complication is that they're playing the YouTube game. They're playing the upload game. Right? They're playing the views game. That's why they're gonna have a seer on their thing. They're gonna beg him to go on there. He's gonna go on there, smash them. They're not gonna have anything to say. But then that night they're gonna go do a live and then talk BS about all the stuff that he said that's wrong. How come you guys didn't just say something when he was on the line with you?
Right.
Like why are you saying something after the fact? Oh, because they know that if they say something during, they're gonna get smashed. They know this. And they're playing careful because they don't want to look like a dumbass live.
Right. Yeah, man, those people like the tension, like they like that battle arena feel. Like you're watching a wrestling match, but it's knowledge that can save you. just for your salvation. But you like looking at it like it's the Entertainment Tonight show, like, oh, Cujo and the Moorish is going on to battle the Indian guy. Like that's the wrong approach to even have with
it. That's why dude was begging me today. Come on, just come on tonight so we can go live. No, F you.
Yep.
F you. Stop begging like a bitch. Why are you begging? Why are you begging?
You can look at their view count. Like when they're not saying nothing, like about when it's 11 hours and they don't talk about Moors, 200 views or something like that after like 3 weeks. But when they say like the Moors, it's 1,000 views, and it's like y'all getting all y'all views just because y'all want to play the try not to bang on the Moors game.
Yeah, and that's who they are. Yep, these are the Aboriginal Frank Garys. Right? When you're telling somebody, come on, let's go live, after they said no, you're like the stalker girl. Like go somewhere. Why are you peeping in the windows and stuff like that? What why are you following me home? The hell's wrong with you people? And don't tell me about for whatever issue is with Chief Holiday and whoever. You're down with them, Lotus Television. And again, we forgot, you still never answered, what's your nationality? Because you're kind of light-skinned, and we really want to know where your mom and your dad's from, for real. Because all you indigenous people, and you got, you got the Mongoloid hair and stuff like that, talking about your indigenous when you came over here on the Bering Strait. Stop playing.
That's what Caramel problem is. Like, he light-skinned, soft hair, and so when he start hearing more than dark, he feel like, oh, I'm not included. Like, that's what it is. But it's like,
oh, the European.
Like, nice. Oh yeah, it get real funny. Cause like the same, why would you push the Constantine like methods? Like Constantine is the same one. It's like, okay, so he's saying if you take it to the Bible, Shem gave the lot. I mean, God, Yahweh gave the lot to Shem, and so Canaan went there. It wasn't his land. That's the same thing that Constantine said when he was like, "Oh, I've seen the sign in the sky, so I can go conquer this land over here." That's the same thing that happened when Cortez came back and they thought he was Quetzalcoatl.
Yep.
They still doing it now. They still think this European United States like vestige calling itself a municipal corporation playing and acting as de facto government. They think that's Quetzalcoatl, the savior of them. They think that's their savior and they're going to get something out of it. They're really playing this indigenous Aboriginal Indian game because they think it's going to be some reparation one day. It's another like, they think they're gonna get the land back as Indian when it's already been sold out. It's just like thinking they're gonna get the 40 acres in the middle. Like it's the same exact game.
Yeah. Oh, and Brother Sheldon, if you could also talk about if you can go further with the Maghreb Al-Aqsa, because I know that you built with Brother Bashir and a couple other people about over here being Morocco.
Well, right. I mean, well, Bashar he's the one who, when I was out here, because right now I'm at Vancouver, y'all.
Yeah.
So, we're out here, and I'm always wearing my fez. I'm always in habit pretty much everywhere. And so we just started talking. And then I took when he said he knew that here is Maghreb Al-Aqsa, and he said that's known, and so that's when I filmed him. So he was the first person. Then once again, I was traveling through Paris. I went to Charles de Gaulle Airport, traveling with my fez, leaving Paris, going back to Germany. The dude stopped me. I said, I wanted to, they had the big machine there when they're checking. I always take the pat down. I don't go through that machine.
He patted me down and he asked me about the fez, and I said, yeah, it's, he asked me about it, and I said, yeah, it's my headdress. It's ancestral and national and religious headdress. And I said, it's called the fez. And he said, yes, he knows, right? He's from Morocco. And I said, okay, I'm from Al Maghreb Al Aqsa. And I said, that's North America. He said, yes, that's number 2. Number 3 was when I was in Cordoba. I went to a Moroccan restaurant. I went in there and I wanted to make some changes to what I ordered, some vegan changes to the menu. The waiter came up to me, and when I asked him, he said, with that hat, you can make any changes you want. And then he walked away. Then when he came back, I said, thank you, but it's not a hat. This is my headdress. I said, it's a fez. He said, yes, I know. I'm from Morocco. And I said, oh, I'm from Al Maghreb Al Aqsa. And then he said, Mahaba, which means hello in Arabic. And then he walked away. And so I'm surprised that he didn't flinch. And then when he came back, because at that point I wasn't 100% sure, I said, you do know, like when I say Al Maghreb Al Aqsa, I'm talking about North America. And he said, yes, I know. That was number 3. And number 4 was when last time I was out here, I was traveling from Toronto to Montreal on a bus, and I sat next to a 22-year-old Egyptian dude. And we were building the entire way, like 5 hours, we were just building the entire way on history and stuff. And then I mentioned once again Al Maghreb Al Aqsa, and he thought about it. He said, and he's the one who broke it down even further to me. When I just talked about the translation, he thought about it. He said, yeah, that's true, because Maghreb translates into Morocco. Maghreb is Arabic for Morocco. And so Maghreb Al Aqsa, he said, when they look at a map, the Americas is Maghreb Al Aqsa, Morocco the farthest west. So he was number 4. All of these people are international, from other lands that know the history that we don't know. So it's not, like I said, it's not complicated. When we say here's Morocco, literally, that's what it is, the English translation of Maghreb Al Aqsa. When we say Morocco the farthest west, it's a literal translation of Maghreb Al Aqsa. That's it. And if you want to be funny, if people want to be funny about it or whatever, Alaska also sounds like Al-Aqsa. So, you know what I mean? So I mean, it's not complicated. But you have to talk to other nationalities. Number 1, preferably. That's what it's about, man. For us, man. I always say outside of the Americas, because some of them might be compromised. But go somewhere else. Travel out of the Western Hemisphere and get to Europe, or even go east, further east, and just talk to people, and they'll tell you. It's not complicated. So with that, I yield.
Islam. And then again, we'll just put it out there again, just because you brought up the Egyptian. The origin, Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James stated, the Moors were the custodians of the ancient Tamare mysteries called Haka. Furthermore, he states, in the 8th century AD, the Moors, natives of Mauritania and North Africa, invaded Spain and took with them the Egyptian culture which they had preserved. Knowledge in the ancient days was centralized, i.e., it belonged to a common parent and system. The Aboriginal people were saying that over here is Egypt, right? The wisdom, teaching, or mysteries of Egypt In addition, the Moors kept up constant contact with Mother Egypt. Therefore, modern Freemasonry's large debt is owed to the Moors. The Moors lifted the Europeans' Albions out from the age of darkness and sparked the Renaissance movement. Freemasonry took its secret wisdom from the culture of the Moors. And again, there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than begging ass niggas. He just said he's not a beggar. But here he is in our chat begging. Come on. Don't do that thumbs down campaign stuff. No, we're going to do that thumbs down campaign stuff because you guys are full of BS. And we're going to be thumbs down in your stuff every day, all day. Every day, all day.
All right.
Peace more.
Go ahead.
You know how they say, what Indian has a Bay title? When Indians ever had Bay? We don't ever hear of Bay. Well, tell them look up is a Apache, so-called Indian named Beishan. Now they spell his name all together, but when they say his name in Spanish, they break it down into two separate names, which is Cochilo Negro. Cochilo means knife. Negro means black. So if Cochilo means shine, are they trying to say, are they relating the Bay with Negro as far as like when they translate it to Spanish?
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm like when I see his name, I'm like, wait, Beishan, and then when I start looking through the name and how it breaks down in Apache language, and it's a 2-syllable, and then when they turn it to Spanish, it's like the Cochilo is like knife. So I'm like, and it says shine is a knife in Apache. So like they don't give the translation of what they mean in Apache though, but in Spanish they say it means negro. But we already know like that whole thing with the like where they try to bastardize the Negro. I mean, they try to bastardize more with Negro. But that's an Apache with a Bay title right there.
You know, just to add on, like I'm looking in the chat.
Yeah.
And you know, not to call this brother out or anything, but you know, dude commented like it's funny because Morocco is not called Morocco, but that's exactly what I just said. I just said that.
They're biting. On top of being beggars, they're biters.
Morocco, like I just said that.
They're beggars and biters. The worst kind.
Wow.
The worst kind. Islam Moors, so there's no such thing as a Moorish language. How you figure? How you figure there's no such thing as a Moorish language when Moors are the founders of civilization? Dark-skinned people or Moors are the founders of civilization.
And then in the debate that y'all had, do want to argue, well, when you say dark and etymology, and it's like, yo, man, it's not that simple. It's not that difficult.
It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science.
Definitely not rocket science. It's not trigonometry. It's none of that. Right? It's very simple. All dark-skinned people are Moors, no matter where you go in the world. Like the brother said, he's traveled in the world. They see him in his fez, they already know what's up. They're not arguing or debating. Well, are you black or they're not confused as what he is. Said, I'm from Maghreb Al-Aqsa. Oh, okay. And that's that. They go about their business.
And that's exactly it. You say it, and you just, okay. And that shocked me because at that point, I just heard it all the time, and I didn't believe it for myself until I spoke to somebody outside of this continent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The biggest problem that these indigenous whoever's have is that they've never left their island called Turtle. They've never been outside here. They keep thinking that this is it. This is the all and be all. Right here is the all and be all. Everything started here. Never, not in ancient times, did they? Because we already know the Moors were the ones who were navigating all the seas. These guys were in no canoes going across the Atlantic Ocean. FOH. There's no way that you people were taking a canoe across the Atlantic and going somewhere else. Maybe in your little river, but you weren't going in any oceans with any canoes talking about you're going somewhere. You might go to that other island over there that's in the Atlantic, but you're not really going anywhere, playing yourself.
That's why, I laugh when I hear some people talk about, oh, the Fez is a bucket hat and this and that and so on and so forth. When I show videos of me in Ghana and them giving me respect. Like, walk into the restaurant, the dude says, "Welcome, Your Highness." Like, come on, man.
Yeah, what more do you want than that?
I go to, what more do you want? Like, I've been to Vietnam. You go to the Vietnam, the Ho Chi Minh Museum, and you see pictures of their, and little statuettes of their gods that have fezzes on.
Yeah.
Dignitaries going to this, and I posted all of that stuff. Like, I have, if you go on Brother Bakari's channel, and the conversation that we have for 3 hours, he posted the pics. They're all there. Matter of fact, the Drew Ali Day that I did, I think it was last year, the more you are, the more you see, the pics are there too.
Yeah.
So it's like, they can say the bucket hat thing all they want, man. You know, you're talking, the way I look at it is you're talking from a place where you don't leave. Like, exactly like you said, you don't leave. If you travel anywhere, you're traveling south to the Caribbean or wherever, but you don't cross the Atlantic and see other places.
Yeah.
And talk to other people, other nationalities. So for me, bucket hat, yeah, okay, it's a bucket hat. Even though it started by the Corral Supe 5000 BC or whatever in South America. But you know what I mean? Okay, it's a bucket hat, no problem. It's a bucket hat. You know? That doesn't bother me. Say whatever you want.
Tell them to look for, type in Toltec Empire in Google. TOLTEC Empire. And the first thing that pops up when they click it is going to be a whole bunch of stoneheads with feathers on. And so-called Mesoamerica.
Yeah.
Why are they there with those on? We're not who we say we are. Like, why are they wearing feathers on these statues called the Toltec? Like,
and Easter Island.
Yeah.
Yep.
They call them Atlantean.
Yep. And Easter Island and BC, the Squamish got their fez on.
And the Squamish Nation, they got their fez on. I took a picture of that and a video. Like, come on, man.
What more do you want? You're not Moors? They're wearing fezzes, but they're not Moors. They got straw fezzes all up and down this place. But they're not Moors. All right.
And it's a bucket hat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a bucket hat. It's a bucket hat. And again, Good work with the Moors. They got 20 thumbs up and 14 thumbs down right now. So a few more of y'all just go over there. All we need is 6. Oh, there's 15. All we need is 6. Just go over there, thumbs down their BS.
On the page, I'm seeing 70 thumbs up and no thumbs down right now.
Right. Oh, on theirs?
No. On this on our page.
Oh yeah, no. On their link, I posted the link in there. Right. Just go thumbs down their BS. Noble Lotus, Ali L Light Bay. All of a sudden they're L's and Bays. Grand Peak Holiday. Now they're Moors. And they're trying to tell you to be Indians, but they're using Moorish names when they go live. But they're telling you be Indian.
Guys, you know what it is? I know they're a weak spot though. They just mad because Dane Calloway put them on. Before it was Dane Calloway talking anything, you didn't hear nothing about no what do you call it? Aboriginal, indigenous, anything. Then here comes I'm just here to make you think guy that's jealous of Noble Jolly because he already said if I could just get you to think, you can save yourself. So right. They're mad because they only popping because of Dane Calloway.
Yo,
now he didn't jump this stuff.
It's the craziest thing because it's no different. It's no different than the other Johnny Come Latelys that the Moors in America people, right? No different than them. Using people's name, get some views, try to be somebody so they can sell their little BS products or whatever like that. But they're playing around. They're not serious. Right? And again, Lotus Television, he can create 100 accounts tomorrow while I make over $200 and thumbs down all your videos. We don't care. I don't care if he thumbs down these videos. That's not stopping me from doing some videos or whatever. You know how long we've been here? I could stay no more videos from today moving forward, and we still got 2,000 videos up there that people can go learn. Shut the hell up. You've been on YouTube since 2012. You just started putting up videos 5 years ago, and now you think you're somebody? Stop this. Stop this.
Just to add on real quick, like in listening to the discussion that y'all were having, and one of the brothers was, when you mentioned Noble Drew Ali, one of the brothers said, yeah, but he's Choctaw. He said he's Choctaw.
Cherokee.
Right?
Yeah.
Or Cherokee,
yeah.
Or Cherokee.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And he said, yeah. He said we're Moors, but he never said he was Indian.
Exactly. And he never said he's Cherokee.
My research.
Somebody else said that.
Yeah. In my research, he never said he was Indian. He said he was Moors. And he said we're all Moors. Right? And here's something that I'll put out. The next time, like, they want to debate Moors, call up a seer and challenge a seer.
Yo, they did that already.
No, but they brought up a seer, but they never challenged them.
Oh no, they're never gonna challenge a seer.
Exactly, and that's my point.
Yeah, I'm never gonna challenge a seer.
Right. When they have them on their page, challenge them right there. Don't wait.
Yeah, don't do stuff after stuff. After they want to talk BS.
Right, yeah. Because, I don't know. I'm not sure how tight they are with the seer. I have no idea. But the fact that they seem to accept whatever he says, and then when he's off there, go against what he's saying, that to me sounds like some Moorish World TV tactics.
Yeah, straight up.
Because dude had a seer on, right? And I would think that he found the seer basically because we were always bigging a seer up and Taj and everybody on our channel.
Yep.
So then dude said, okay, let me check out this seer, had him on, and never challenge anything a seer said, because a seer has books and books and books, and his book list is bananas. So a seer will talk about one topic and give you 9 books to read.
Yeah.
All with like 300 plus pages. Right? And so that's kind of like what it sounded like to me when, you know, these guys have him on and, oh, everything is good, and then he's off the show and then they're talking about it. Why not do it while he's there? Because if you do it while he's there, he's going to correct you right away, and he's going to slap you with a 50 book list. That'll have your head spinning for at least a year and a half on just one topic, like, as Moors we used to eat, as an example, cabbage. Something super small, and then here's 50 books on it.
Yeah. On the cabbage eating Moors.
Yeah, exactly. There's 50 books, 50 books on that. He'll slap you with one of those.
No, I will put out there what he said when I told him about it. Right, I mentioned to him that they were using his book cover to do their little against the Moors slander campaign or whatever. So he asks, who's this person? Who's this person? I feel that these slaves are just obsessed with the Moors. So much obsession that it's impairing their reasoning skills. They like to talk about me, but not to me. Asir the Duke of Tears. So they would never challenge him, just like they would never challenge Autochthonous one. When he tells them about Moorish, whatever, they just shut the hell out. They zip the lip. No talking. When Autochthonous one comes out, no talking. They zip the lip. Right, fakers. Islam brother Kasir, you got any closeouts?
Hey, I'd just like to say peace and love to the Moors. Just remember to keep it in love. That's the first principle. You can master the love and get past the hate. And then everything else will just fall into place. Honor to the mothers also.
Honor to the mothers. And don't forget, thumbs down these niggas. The link's in the chat. Just click the link and just thumbs down their BS. Because they're full of BS. Doesn't even matter if you go watch or whatever. Just go there, hit a thumbs down, and be out. You don't even gotta stay long. Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide. Brother Sheldon, you got any closeouts? And then don't forget to plug the site. So in case we get some people from your end of the woods that watch this, they know it's good.
Yeah, just peace, love, and light to all the Moors. Peace, love, and light to all our master Moorish Adab teachers, in no particular order. Taj, Nasir, Sister Raz, Leem, Obashango El, and
Hakeem Bey. C. Freeman L.
Put in Jose Pimenta Bay in there.
C. Freeman L. Jose Pimenta Bay.
C. Freeman L.
Delbert Blair Bay.
Delbert Blair. Dr. Ben. Talib Mosley Bay. Yeah, man, just all of them.
Yep, all the master teachers.
All the master teachers.
Oh, can't forget Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
And of course,
the Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
The foundation of the Moor Avengers.
Islam. Salivated, bro. Salivated. Islam to all the Moors. Peace and love. Yes.
Islam to the mothers as well.
Islam to the mothers. Oh, yes. And we got them. 22 thumbs up, 24 thumbs down. Good job, Moors. Peace and love. And don't forget that as much as as much as we laugh and play and joke at all that stuff with these people, right? We're serious about our nationality and birthrights. Like, this is not, you know, we're not going to be off of this because some people talk crazy, or, you know, they found something that said Noble Drew Ali did something crazy, or they found something saying Moors did something crazy, or whatever, right? It's not happening, because we know that nationality is the order of the day. It would always be the order of the day until our people come into that truth. And until they come into that truth, let the dead do them, and I'ma just do me. And majority of Moors are just gonna do them and not even care what happens to these dirty Moors out here that are playing around, that they are everything except Moors, or they're playing around that they're Moors, but they're not gonna ride with the active Moors. Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide. Love to all, and to all a good night.
Why attack and your intellect and take the knock? It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Why attack and your intellect and take the knock? It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Why attack and your intellect and take the knock? It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Why attack and your intellect and take the knock? It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash.
When Moors study our Quran and questions for Moorish children, prosecutors and magistrates hate us in the admin buildings, challenging jurisdiction, paperwork sent first, no fiat, clenching their money hungry, bloody credit first. Trustees benefit when they escheat your estate. That you thought was a provincial state is a big mistake. From corporate plantations, there's no escape or backdoor unless reserve rights on contract doors. Keep eyes open for, like you misplaced something. It's witchcraft when you hear caught and your heartbeats jumping. Extortion, past due letters, fake money, bounty hunting. Filing public records, papers within debt counties fronting to have authority. Constitution approved, but those filed papers at the county doesn't stop the abuse. Might as well just put on the noose. Shackles and chains on ankles, no boots. In snowstorms with no shame, with no status, no flag, no free national name. With fractional damage, collateral, irrational claims. Catch a psych evaluation or contempt of quasi-court. Calling out what's not in evidence won't set a precedent. Misprision of treason and gross negligence. Denying due process and sharing the same sentiments. On you harder than cement is. If you give them a chance, I'm here to help you not enter their brainwash camps. Keep your neck hidden, no kidding. Watch out for vamps, light revealer, and keep a won't keep casting the lamps. Always giving without expecting thanks. In a b-boy stance, scimitar swinging at outstretched hands. It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. Yo, we run on the floor with elegance, no self-elements. Get the gentleness stomp of Hannibal Alp elephants. Taking back our settlements, induce relevant resonance. In full life, ancestral mind, no artificial intelligence. Men turn bionic, high off the seedless hydroponic. Thinking they on it, but what they on it must be demonic. Not Baphomet, Moroccan star on his head. Crescent moons of Islam, he uses Caduceus from Kemet. Sitting in meditation, goatee like a Rasta. Ray Kundalini light bursts out the crown chakra. Volcanic view, HD and panoramic. No ayahuasca root, seeing signs and symbols automatic. Dinner plate eyes, cause mine's so wide open. Maybe an omen, can't see truth cause your third eye swollen. And it's not going down no matter what spell smoking. Or your devotion or golden potent potion. Can't even use water frozen, Moorish showing. Says the calcifying chambers now rest in the bottom of oceans. Left hoping, false prophet quoting and chasing. Minds under control like lasers for stealing, braving. Mental blocks and thought barricades the real enslaving. No cake, no type, no dynamic duo when I'm saving. With heads locked, hot brainwashed, don't think I'm breaking or b-boying. Put scholars, very annoying. with hillbilly sovereigns. Knowledge he hine, being sold out by my own is what has me worried.
It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. If your intellect is it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. If your intellect is it's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash. If your intellect is it's meant to wake you up. Wake you up out of your brainwash. Wake you up. It's meant to wake you up out of your brainwash.
You sat down and you attacked the master teacher because you thought you heard something that you didn't hear. That's the first violation. You don't come in. First of all, you come in and you act like you come in peace. But you don't. You got an agenda.
Wars of men upright, independent and fearless. Dogmatized, dirty Moors, punks cut out left earless. Cause they never listen. Dirty Moors, keep up your slander. Wu-Tang torture in your ass hot hangers. Kidnappers, dirty Moors, torture him like Saw. 3D, 0.5 or 1 2 4. Or get it like 5 or 6 with a fez on jigsaw. Leather face in a turban, rip dirty Moors lips off. Disrespecting the mother Raz Mariah Bay. Wrap him up like double crochet, the barbed wire way. Throw him off a bridge or feed him to the piranhas. Yellow journalists more spread nothing but propaganda. Idi Amin Bay, treat the temple like Uganda. Dirty Moors like foreigners, crush the dust like ganja. Not worthy of being Moors, we call them dirty the Jesus. Solomon Seal spell command 72 demons to get you.
This is what the temple guys actually say. That Canaanland is not a part of North America. Canaanland is bigger. Yo, it's ignorant, man. I mean, come on, you're talking about the same land, man. Canaanland is actually bigger than the land that they know as the corporate United States. Almost twice as big. And if they had any sense, they could just go to Google and they can type in North America and find out North America goes all the way up to Green. But they're ignorant. They don't want to do that. They just dealing off emotion.
You might hear horse voices, see frog faces, and Musa feet. Demons we run with spitfire with gold wolf teeth. Keep playing, forget back teeth. New Moors are an issue. Get Ginsu. Maybe a dream visit from Ishnu, a nightmare to never end and always continue. Cold as an igloo, dealing with my trust issues through vigilance, active militants, SPLC, dirty Moors, call that sovereign citizen. Lying for views, they notice all the empty pews. Benz need gas and fixing, but not enough dues. Pigpen base sell you out for peanuts, claiming that we nuts for teaching Birthright street level, keeping it beat nuts.
To any members of the MFTA that's out there listening to what I'm saying, please get it through your head. I don't have a problem with the MFTA. I got issues with
the cases Lamar, stay surrounded by feathers. Dirty's guilty of fraud if dually scrutinize their ledgers. Getting proclamations from Morocco, disrespect us. Corporate city only recognize people's court jesters. Hand in their back, Moorish puppets and minions. Never get the human rights recognition like Moors near Virginia. Commonwealth, for active Moors knowledge, the Commonwealth. 30s claim more, but really on the straw man help. Authenticating a birth certificate, that's not significant. Civilitter Mortuus status syndicates. In more face, watch them two more status Indians claiming Turtle Island are lying, so intricate.
long days and long nights. But this message needed to be heard.
Yes, y'all, and discard them like blood trash. Active more Avengers, call that a hawk smash. Your conscious spoon sniffling booze and role models. Won't accept facts and just quarrel. No 5 principles, of course, no profit. Facebook and YouTube names they won't have on the docket. They say go fund me, and when you go fund them and get robbed, I say I told you, don't fund them. Still don't listen and call yourself deaf. While most say middle, my path is right hand, the left. Some say your culture thinks we worship Alphabet. We just Sufis with trance from Mohammed. tonic. Offerings of fruit for Oya and Oshun. If that won't work, we call in some Shangoons. Summon demons at the full blood and new moons. Mirror steel blade only escaped by a few coons. And those that escaped are on the run are stay running. Falling off the London Bridge or jumping. Nobody beats the Moors. Nobody beats the Moors. Nobody beats the Moors. Nobody beats the Moors. We studied from the masters, we know that stuff reloaded. From Moorish Empire books to hip-hop decoded. Before modern decoders, we studied A.A. Rashid, Conscious Ket Hemic, Basaline and Akeem. Moore's water up the table round like common had soul. We got degrees by the pound, stay uplifting humanity. We got Moors near Japan and lands nether, and even Afghanistan. On every Atlantis island, Moors you find them repping Moorish nation, not Turtle Island. When it's really a continent. Anybody saying Drew Ali's a myth incompetent, claiming black and Indian nonsense, then begging active Moors to help you out your consequence. But still lend a hand, our first principle love. Realize, not a hand, just a stick in a glove. Nobody beats the Moors. Nobody beats the Moors. Nobody beats the Moors. Nobody beats the Moors. On and on till the break of dawn. Many Negro black scholars coin tell pawns. Doing dirty work, keep you deaf and dumb with no love, truth, peace, justice, or freedom. Moors have returned called the ancient ones. We are the copper-tone natives, not the Asian ones. Feathers up in turbans, Allah's patience, us. Key man escape shots from Smith's agent guns, or any quarter broke plans or seized his plots. Not getting a slave name, talking to racist cops, violating oaths of office and ethics. Never knew I was a Moor, thought I was synthetic. Stop being skeptic, suddenly apologetic. We shut down the psychological warfare methods. Active Moors check it, see it as a lesson. Lifters will know their strength before the foes test it. Nobody beats the Moors. 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 Nobody beats the Moors.